Chapter 165. Threats and counter-threats. I'm just a spokesperson being pushed to the front. Sihua said, a little proud. You know my position and reputation in Songshan, right? From this, you can also see how powerful the boss behind me is. Bullshit, I can do that too. Lin Yi said. Would you believe me if I told you that my master is the king of assassins in the world? Sihua, naturally, didn't believe him. He rolled his eyes. Alright, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about you. Why are you with Meng Yao right now? Money, isn't it? As for her looks. Meng Yao's really pretty, but that kind of young girl doesn't know how to serve people like a mature woman. What kind of woman can't you get with money? Lin Yi listened to Sihua continue. Let's talk about our partnership. Sihua said. Our boss has never been short of money. If you work with us, you'll get more than just money, you'll get beauties, status, everything. Just like me. You think you're that great? Lin Yi wanted to laugh, but couldn't. How sad, how sad. This guy was, thinking that being a pawn was enough of a big deal. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to attack people like this anymore. How do we work together? Get me to help you? Or do you want me to spy on you? Lin Yi asked. Anything, as long as you're willing. Sihua said. You're not any weaker than Li Yao, are you? Who's Li Yao? Lin Yi didn't know the exquisite guy's name. The guy whose arm you grabbed earlier. Sihua explained. Maybe. Lin Yi didn't answer the question directly. You're one of the best in Songshan. I'm sure the boss will offer you a high price if you're willing to help me. Sihua said. Of course, you can continue being a spy by Meng Yao's side, enjoying your life of money and beauties. We'll also give you a portion of the money, and you'll be able to play a key role in a critical moment. That's a good idea, but it's very difficult to operate. Lin Yi rejected the offer right away. First of all, I'm satisfied with my life right now. Pengzhan gave me quite a lot of money, and I have enough to spend. Secondly, I'm quite at ease right now, so I don't want to take the risk to do some difficult missions like lurking around. So, I'm sorry, but I won't accept your suggestion. Mr. Lin, I hope that you will consider it carefully before you speak. Sihua said. Do you think you have a choice after what I've said? Are you threatening me? Lin Yi raised his head to look at Sihua. You can think of it that way. Sihua smiled. You can think of it as a warning, or a threat. Okay, I got it. Lin Yi stood up. Is there anything else? If not, I'm going home to sleep. So, do you agree or not? Sihua asked. Or do you want to think about it? There's no need to think about it. I won't agree to it anyway. Lin Yi said. I've made myself very clear. We'll meet again. I hope you won't regret it if you haven't changed your mind when you walk out of this door. Sihua frowned. He didn't expect Lin Yi to be so stubborn. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi must have been mesmerized by Meng Yao. Lin Yi must have been hinting at this when he said to go home to sleep. One had to admit that Sihua's thoughts were filthy and filthy. His mind was filled with obscene thoughts. Heh. Lin Yi pushed the door open and was about to leave when Sihua's face contorted. He'd asked Lin Yi to meet him because he was full of confidence, even going as far as to confess that he was the one behind the bank kidnapping. Sihua's goal was to get Lin Yi on his side. As far as he was concerned, everyone had their own value. As long as he could offer enough benefits, Lin Yi would definitely give up on Meng Yao and join his side. However, Lin Yi didn't even ask for the price. He rejected him directly. Sihua didn't know if he was overestimating Lin Yi or underestimating Lin Yi. Was he overestimating him, thinking that he was too loyal, or was he underestimating him, thinking that he was only after Meng Yao's beauty? If that's the case, Mr. Lin, take care of yourself. Sihua knew that there was no point in saying anything more at this point. He couldn't change Lin Yi's mind. He wouldn't be able to use this person anymore. I will, but I hope that you too, Sihua bro, don't do anything stupid. With that, Lin Yi pushed the door open and left Sihua's office. He'd basically figured out one thing now: the person who was after Pengzhan was the person behind Sihua. As for who that person was, Lin Yi didn't know yet. Sihua, on the other hand, was the one who had hired someone to do it. But judging from how confident he was right now, the police wouldn't be able to get any concrete evidence to do anything to Sihua. In other words, the police would at most catch the robbers, and the case would end there. Lin Yi wasn't someone who followed the rules, but Sihua hadn't crossed his bottom line yet. Pengzhan hadn't responded yet, so Lin Yi decided to let Sihua go for now. Making a move on Sihua was a piece of cake. As Sihua had said, he wouldn't leave any evidence if he killed him. At the door, Li Yao and Su Jiaonang didn't stop Lin Yi, allowing him to leave. They wouldn't do anything without Sihua's orders. Lin Yi walked out of the bar, got into Yushu's yellow beetle, and drove away from the floating cloud bar. Meng Yao's Audi S5 had already left, and Faubert must have asked someone to drive it back. Fuck, you dare threaten me? It was only after Lin Yi was out of the bar that Sihua waved to the skeleton man behind him. Zhang Long, you and Li Yao take care of this man. He'll be trouble sooner or later if he doesn't work for me. Yes. Zhang Long did not say much. He responded indifferently and walked out of the room. Zhang Long was the golden class late phase peak master that Sihua's boss had assigned to him. He had a domineering name, Zhang Long, the same as Zhang Long and Zhao Hu from the Seven Heroes and Five Righteous. Zhang Long didn't say anything, but he still felt that he could deal with Lin Yi alone. There was no need for Li Yao to go with him. But since he was under Sihua's command, Zhang Long agreed to it. With Zhang Long and Li Yao together, Li Yao naturally became the driver. It couldn't be helped, since Zhang Long was stronger than Li Yao. Chapter 166. A big gift. Lin Yi, naturally, didn't think that Sihua would just let things go like that. The jade on his neck started giving him a warning not long after. Lin Yi smiled faintly as he looked at the rearview mirror. It wasn't long before a black van caught up to Lin Yi. It had just entered his line of sight and wasn't too close, but the jade's warning told Lin Yi that it was 100% certain that the van was after him. If it weren't for the jade, Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to determine if the van was after him or not. It would have taken him some time to determine if the van was after him or not. It was a cheat that saved Lin Yi a lot of precious time. It wasn't that useful in the city, but on the battlefield, a second's notice of an enemy's presence could be the difference between life and death. Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to go home now that he was sure that the van was after him. He turned the steering wheel and drove away from the villa area. Lin Yi wasn't familiar with the map of Songshan, but he knew this road. Tang Yin slums were right up ahead, and after that was the national highway that led to a forest. Lin Yi had passed by this place when he'd taken the train, and he'd had a deep impression of the place. Long bro, that kid changed his way. Did he notice us? Li Yao asked Zhang Long, who was beside him. So what if he did? Zhang Long said disdainfully. He's going to die no matter what. Killing him is as easy as lifting a finger. Zhang Long had observed Lin Yi's strength before, and felt that he was far weaker than he was. Sihua sending Li Yao to kill Lin Yi with him felt like it was overkill, making a big fuss out of nothing. As far as Zhang Long was concerned, even Li Yao would be able to kill Lin Yi, let alone him. Sihua, on the other hand, was asking him to go with Li Yao. Wasn't he doubting his abilities? Or was he overestimating Lin Yi's strength? As a result, Zhang Long was very displeased. He had a high and mighty attitude when it came to Lin Yi, not even bothering to make a move. He'd let Li Yao do it later if he could. He didn't even bother. Li Yao, on the other hand, didn't think that Zhang Long was boasting. After all, Zhang Long's strength was clear for all to see. He was only an early phase golden class, while Li Yao was a late phase peak golden class. The difference was like heaven and earth. Should we report this to Sihua bro? Li Yao asked. Sihua bro didn't know any martial arts, but he was someone the boss valued, so Li Yao and Zhang Long had to listen to him. Zhang Long, on the other hand, didn't think too highly of Sihua. He would carry out Sihua's orders, but he looked down on him from the bottom of his heart. It's fine, Sihua bro only told us to kill Lin Yi. He didn't say how or where, Zhang Long said. Alright, I'll follow you. Li Yao nodded. After passing through the slums and out of Songshan, Lin Yi sped up. The beetle's performance wasn't bad, at least it was faster than the van behind. Damn, this broken beetle is pretty fast. If I had known, I wouldn't have driven this van. Li Yao grumbled. He did not expect Lin Yi to change lanes at the last minute and head for the outskirts. If they were driving in the city, speed would not be much of an advantage. After all, there were many cars, but it was a different story once they were out of the city. This kid wants to get rid of us. Zhang Long frowned. I don't know, but our car is at a disadvantage. It won't be easy to catch up to him. Li Yao said. Zhang Long was about to say something when he saw Lin Yi's beetle parked on the side of the road. Lin Yi got out of the car and stood in the middle of the road, walking towards his car. Fuck, what does he want? Is he announcing to us that he's discovered us, and that he's going to stand in the middle of the road and talk to us? Li Yao guessed. Asterisk. Zhang Long nodded after hearing Li Yao's explanation. This was the only explanation. Otherwise, who would be stupid enough to stand in the middle of the road and block a car? Wasn't he afraid of death? Long bro, should we stop the car and talk to him? Li Yao asked. Stop the car. Stop my ass. Zhang Long smiled coldly. Since this guy wants to die, then don't blame us for not holding back. Long bro, you mean? Li Yao paused, a little uncertain. Just run him over and kill him. Zhang Long humphed, a mocking smile on his face. A golden class early phase peak, dying in a car accident. TSK, what a tragedy. He won't be able to rest in peace. Heh. Li Yao understood what Zhang Long meant. Zhang Long's idea was too evil. Martial artists could die in battle, but they couldn't die in vain. If they died for no reason at all, they wouldn't be able to rest in peace. With his and Zhang Long's combined strength, it shouldn't be a difficult task to kill Lin Yi. However, Zhang Long didn't even bother to make a move. He just ordered Lin Yi to be smashed to death. If Lin Yi knew about this, he'd be crying. Long bro, that's a sneaky move. Li Yao said as he sped up. Don't speed up. Zhang Long waved his hand. How do I kill him if I don't speed up? Li Yao paused. Pretend to slow down and stop. Then, when you're about 20 meters away from him, suddenly accelerate and kill him. Hit him and catch him off guard. Zhang Long said. Don't underestimate him, he's a golden class early phase peak. Let me ask you, if a car were to hit you, how confident would you be in dodging it? At least 80% if I knew beforehand. Li Yao nodded. But if I didn't know beforehand, it'd be troublesome if I was caught off guard. Long bro, you're still the most cautious. Of course I have to confuse him if I want to kill him. Zhang Long said. It's funny when I think about it. A golden class master dying in a car accident. Sigh, life is unpredictable. Yeah, it's hilarious. Li Yao said. But this way, no one will suspect anything. The police will just think it was a traffic accident. The van slowed down as it neared Lin Yi and flashed its turn signal, giving off the impression that it was going to stop. Lin Yi stood in the middle of the road and watched the van approach with a smile on his face. Chapter 167. The two unlucky masters Lin Yi would do things even if he didn't have any proof. Sihua would probably cry at that point, wouldn't he? Two golden class masters, dead just like that. How unlucky. The van suddenly accelerated 20 meters away from Lin Yi, and Lin Yi could even see Li Yao and Zhang Long's smug smiles on their faces. But from Lin Yi's point of view, those smiles were like blooming epiphyllum that would wither in an instant. Heh. Lin Yi smiled as well, but it was a very strange and meaningful one. What's the kid smiling about? Li Yao was a little confused as he stepped harder on the accelerator, but the pedal was already at its limit. There was no point in stepping any further. Who knows? Let's just run him over and find out. Zhang Long ordered Li Yao, feeling a little uncomfortable from Lin Yi's smile. Lin Yi didn't seem to notice Li Yao speeding up as he stood in the middle of the road like a warrior about to die. Heh. A smile appeared on Li Yao's face as he watched the van crash into Lin Yi. Lin Yi, on the other hand, dodged to the right the moment the van came crashing down on him, landing beside Li Yao's driver's seat and kicking the van's left front tire. With a loud bang, the van's left tire exploded, and the car lost its balance as it spun to the left, making an arc in front of Lin Yi before crashing through the guardrail on the side of the national highway and falling into the mountain stream. The van flipped a few times in the air before landing at the bottom of the mountain stream, sparking with a loud bang. Lin Yi looked down the mountain stream, and waited for a while. There was no one coming out of the van, and the van was burnt beyond recognition. It was only then that Lin Yi turned to leave. Of course, before he left, Lin Yi pushed back the sharp blade in his shoe. As strong as Lin Yi was, he didn't have the confidence to burst a moving tire with one kick, and even if the air leaked, he didn't have the confidence to make the tire deflate. So, using external force was the best way. Lin Yi always had a hidden blade in his shoes. He'd modified it on a whim when he watched Detective Conan. It wasn't very useful, but it could definitely come in handy under certain circumstances. Just now, for example, he'd only needed to stretch out his leg and have enough willpower to stabilize his body and leg, and the blade would have been enough to shred a spinning tire to pieces. Of course, he was the only one who dared to do something as dangerous as this. A normal person would have lost their footing in there. Two golden class masters, one early phase and one late phase peak. In Song's Han, they'd be considered masters among masters. Wasn't it a little too much to lose their footing? Lin Yi sighed as he looked at the burnt van, shaking his head. He wondered how Sihua would feel if he knew that two of his golden class masters had died just like that. The most frustrating thing was that he couldn't prove that he was the one who did it, could he? It looked like a traffic accident. Was this what Sihua meant by a fight between the upper echelons? Even if Sihua knew that he did it, he couldn't prove it without any evidence. But, even if Sihua did find Lin Yi's going to tell him that he didn't know anything, and give Sihua the false impression that the two guys had a flat tire and fell off the cliff out of bad luck. It'd be frustrating. Going for wool and coming home shorn. Sihua was the only one who could understand this feeling. Lin Yi turned around and walked to Yushu's beetle. He started the car and drove towards the villa area. This was a national highway with bad roads, and there weren't any streetlights at night. There weren't many cars passing by, and Lin Yi hadn't seen a single car for so long, so he wasn't worried that someone would notice. The lights were still on when Lin Yi got back to the villa. Lin Yi didn't park the car in Yushu's garage, but in Mingyao's yard instead. Lin Yi didn't have a car to drive, so he'd borrow Yushu's car for the time being. She wouldn't object to it, anyway. The villa's gate opened, perhaps due to the sound of the car being parked. It wasn't Mengyao or Yushu, but Faubert. "Mr. Lin, you're back." Faubert nodded at Lin Yi. "Faubert, you're still here." Lin Yi was a little puzzled. He'd gone to deal with two golden class masters, and it had taken him at least an hour to get to the middle of the national highway. Why hadn't Faubert returned yet? Under normal circumstances, Faubert would leave immediately after sending Mengyao and Yushu to the villa. Mr. Chu is here too. Please come in, Mr. Lin. Faubert said to Lin Yi. Oh. Uncle Chu is here too. Lin Yi didn't expect Peng Zhan to come to the villa this late at night. Lin Yi followed Faubert into the villa and saw Meng Yao and Yushu sitting on the big sofa with their heads lowered like obedient babies. On the other side of the sofa, Peng Zhan was lecturing them about something with a dark face. He only squeezed out a smile when he saw Lin Yi come in. "Yi, you're back. Please, have a seat." Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi, feeling wronged. Yushu was right, her father's attitude towards him was too good. It was a little too much. He didn't even treat her like this, scolding her when she came back, but Lin Yi came back with a face full of smiles. If she didn't know her father's character, she would have thought that Lin Yi was his bastard child. If it weren't for Lin Yi, would she have gone to drink in a bad mood? Besides, she didn't even drink a single sip. The difference between her and Lin Yi's treatment was like heaven and earth. She really didn't know what her father was thinking, treating a playboy like this so well. If she told her father about how he hooked up with other girls at school and in the bar, would her father still treat him like this? Of course, Meng Yao was just thinking about it. She couldn't say it out loud, and she was too embarrassed to say it out loud. "Lin Yi, you've worked hard. It's all thanks to you tonight." Peng Zhan smiled at Lin Yi. "It's nothing, Uncle Chu." Lin Yi smiled. "I didn't do anything, actually. These two kids just don't listen. Old Chen gave his daughter to me, and I didn't take good care of her. She went out with Yao Yao to cause trouble." Peng Zhan said. "If it weren't for you, who knows what would have happened." Chapter 168. An overbearing display. Oh. Peng Zhan blinked, not expecting Lin Yi to speak up for Meng Yao and Yushu. Meng Yao raised her head to look at Lin Yi as well. From what she knew, Lin Yi wouldn't put in a good word for her even if he didn't hit her when she was down, would he? After all, her attitude towards him today had been really, really bad. "Things are a little weird today, Uncle Chu, maybe we can talk in my room?" Lin Yi didn't want Meng Yao and Yushu to know too much, and it wouldn't be a good thing for them to worry about. Peng Zhan nodded before looking at Meng Yao and Yushu. "Yao Yao, Shu, you guys go upstairs and get some rest, we'll call it a day. I have something to talk to Yi about." Oh. Meng Yao wasn't someone who didn't understand things. She could tell from Lin Yi's tone that Lin Yi had discovered something at the bar, probably something related to her father's competitor. Thinking back to Lin Yi's weird behavior at the bar, Meng Yao understood as well, the person who'd been targeting her and Yushu earlier was probably doing it on purpose. Meng Yao pulled Yushu upstairs, and Lin Yi sat on the sofa Meng Yao and Yushu had been sitting on earlier. "Lin Yi, what's up?" Peng Zhan gestured at Lin Yi. "Uncle Chu, have you heard of this Li Zihua?" Lin Yi didn't need to beat around the bush with Peng Zhan. "Li Zihua." Peng Zhan frowned. "I know him, Safflower Real Estate, one of Peng Zhan Industries' main competitors in Songshan." "Ah, he's the one who did the bank kidnapping." Lin Yi said. "Him." A shocked expression appeared on Peng Zhan's face. "We're competitors, but we have connections in the city. Normally, we'd split the projects 50-50. What's the point of kidnapping Yao Yao?" According to him, there's someone behind him, and he's just one of the stakeholders. He should have partners, Lin Yi said. Peng Zhan had heard that there was someone behind Zihua, but he didn't know who it was. In just over a decade, a person who had been released from prison managed to prosper and establish Safflower Holdings from scratch. There were also several hotels, bars, entertainment centers, and other industries under it. Such a scale was not something that could be achieved through hard work alone. Zihua, however, was only released in the late 90s, and only entered the real estate business 2,000 years ago. Without a strong backer and support, the company wouldn't be what it was today. Zihua, on the other hand, was only released in the late 90s, and only entered the real estate business 2,000 years ago. How did you find out about this? Peng Zhan fell into deep thought. What Lin Yi had told him today was too shocking. He'd thought that the kidnapper was just one of the shareholders in the company, and he'd already had a suspect in mind, but now it seemed that there was more to it than meets the eye. Sihua told me that himself, Lin Yi said. He told you that himself? Peng Zhan was in disbelief. He wants to rope me in, get me to work for him, or work as a spy for Miss Chu. Lin Yi said. Peng Zhan nodded, not asking if Lin Yi had agreed to Sihua's suggestion. Since Lin Yi was telling him about it, it meant that Lin Yi had rejected Sihua's suggestion. I didn't think that he'd set his eyes on Peng Zhan Industries as well. Peng Zhan sighed deeply. I thought it was just an internal conflict, and I didn't do anything about it out of consideration for my father. But some people have started colluding with outsiders to attack Peng Zhan Industries. I didn't expect it to be this complicated. Peng Zhan's words were filled with helplessness and sorrow. Lin Yi could sense it, and he understood how he was feeling. He'd said it before, that most of the shareholders were the sons and nephews of Elder Chu's right-hand men. Do you need me to do anything? Lin Yi raised his head to look at Peng Zhan. Sihua's background is very complicated, and he walks the line between black and white. I don't want to make him my enemy if it's not necessary, Peng Zhan said helplessly. It looks like we'll have to start from within the company. Lil Yi, just protect Yao Yao and Shu. Leave these things to me. Uncle Chu, I can actually share some of the burden with you. Lin Yi smiled. Sihua, he'll come after us even if we don't provoke him, just like how he sent 2 masters after me when I rejected his suggestion. What? Sihua sent people after you? Peng Zhan froze, looking at Lin Yi in shock. He didn't expect Sihua to make a move just like that. Sihua was a domineering man in the eyes of others, but Peng Zhan hadn't interacted much with him. Peng Zhan was a proper businessman, and he didn't dabble in crooked things. Yes, 2 golden class masters. Lin Yi didn't know if Peng Zhan knew about the division of strength, but judging from his expression, he didn't seem to know. But there was a flash of emotion on Faubert's face. It was just a flash, and it was hard to notice if one didn't pay attention. But Lin Yi had been paying attention to Peng Zhan and Faubert's expressions after he'd said that. From Faubert's expression, Lin Yi knew that Faubert knew something about the division of strength, but he didn't ask too many questions at this time. Then, did you lose them? Peng Zhan looked at Lin Yi worriedly. I lured them to the national highway and used a little trick, but they fell for it. They drove straight into the mountain stream. Lin Yi shrugged. It's their bad luck. Dead? Peng Zhan's eyes widened. There was no lack of life and death in the upper-class society, but Peng Zhan rarely did things that went against his principles. He was shocked to hear that Lin Yi had lured 2 masters who wanted to kill him into the mountain stream. I'm afraid they won't make it. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Uncle Chu, I hope I didn't cause you any trouble. Trouble? Of course not. Peng Zhan recovered from the shock. Lin Yi had gotten into trouble because of his family. Even if the 2 men wanted to kill Lin Yi and Lin Yi had lured them into the ravine, he'd still think of a way to help Lin Yi get away with it. There's no evidence. Who can prove that you did it? Humph, it's not that easy to touch my men in Songshan. Chapter 169. Chapter 169, Shai Yushu. Peng Zhan left with Faubert after understanding the situation. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was about to head back to his room to rest when Meng Yao and Yushu came downstairs. Shield bro, what were you guys talking about? Yushu was a curious baby. She'd been eavesdropping with Meng Yao, but didn't dare get too close for Peng Zhan to notice. Nothing, just some company stuff. Lin Yi said. Uncle Chu's competitor. Oh. Meng Yao wasn't interested in that. She was still too young, and hadn't been exposed to the machinations of the business world. She was still a naive person. What she cared about was the real reason her dad had sent Lin Yi over to her. She wasn't interested since it wasn't related to that. Shield bro, tell me the truth, did Uncle Chu send you over to chase Yao Yao? Yushu didn't quite believe that Pengzhan and Lin Yi were only talking about company stuff. Wah. Lin Yi looked at Yushu, stunned. Oh, it's nothing. Yushu was just trying to trick Lin Yi, but the look on his face told her that her guess was a little off. At the very least, he was as clueless as Meng Yao was. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he rubbed his nose. Yushu's question was a little too ridiculous, wasn't it? Was there something wrong with Chu Pengzhan's head? Sending him to chase his daughter? Was Meng Yao that ugly, or did she have some sort of disease that made him send someone to chase her? Yushu's imagination was really off the charts. Who knew what was going on in that little head of hers? Shu, what the hell are you talking about? Meng Yao's face reddened. Why don't you ask if my dad sent him to chase you? Why'd Uncle Chu send him to chase me? Yushu blinked. He's not that nosy, is he? Meng Yao rolled her eyes, pissed. Say another word and I'll tear your mouth apart. Oh. You can talk even if you're rotten, unless you sew your mouth shut. Yao Yao, your logic isn't right. Yushu retorted. Meng Yao turned around and went upstairs. She couldn't afford to piss her off, but she could at least avoid her. Yao Yao, wait for me. Yushu turned around and ran after Meng Yao. Lin Yi looked at their backs and shook his head. Up until now, Lin Yi had never gone up to the second floor, so he didn't know what it was like upstairs. He suddenly remembered that he still had the keys to Yushu's villa. Shu. Shield bro, are you calling me? Yushu turned around and looked at Lin Yi, her mouth wide open. Uncle Chu, he didn't really send you after me, did he? Lin Yi almost fainted. I'm here to return your villa keys. Oh, the keys. Yushu was a little embarrassed. Ha, I was just joking, I know. Lin Yi nodded. When had Yushu ever told the truth? 9 out of 10 of her words were always jokes. Hee, that's good. Yushu breathed out in relief, her face a little flushed. She didn't know why she'd blurted out something like that, but it was lucky that she'd always put on a weird and crazy persona. It'd be so embarrassing if someone found out that she'd said the truth. Right, can I borrow the car for a few days? It'll be inconvenient for me to go out with you guys. Lin Yi asked. Go ahead, I'm not driving it anyway. Yushu said with a wave of her hand. I'll leave the villa keys with you. Don't you want a computer? Go get it when you're free. I'm sleepy, I'm going to bed. Bye-bye. Yushu felt that her face must be very red right now, like a crab with a fever. It was like a TV commercial from many years ago. What's wrong, bro? You got cooked. In fact, Yushu's face wasn't that obvious under the dim lights on the second floor, and Lin Yi didn't pay too much attention to it. Okay, I'll go get the computer tomorrow. Tang Yun and Xinwen walked out of the school with people pointing at them. Tang Yun was a little gloomy as she felt countless eyes staring at her from behind. Lin Yi, I'm so pissed. Tang Yun thought. Yun, I'll go back first. Xinwen and Tang Yun lived very close, but Tang Yun had to go to her mother's barbecue stall every night, so they didn't go home together. Okay, then be careful on your way back. Go visit Fun when you're free. Her emotions haven't been very stable these days. She didn't say anything when I went to her house during the weekend. Tang Yun said. Okay, I'll go visit her in a bit. Xinwen nodded. Tang Yun walked to the food street behind the school alone. Her mother was preparing to barbecue, and Tang Yun pouted as she took out the barbecue recipe Lin Yi gave her. Here, this is the recipe. Oh. You got the recipe. Mrs. Tang's face lit up as she took the recipe happily. In fact, after what Lin Yi said yesterday, Mrs. Tang wasn't sure if Lin Yi would really give her the recipe or not. After all, he might just be saying it casually. But she didn't think that Tang Yun would really bring it back today. This meant that the barbecue stall's business was going to be booming. Mrs. Tang was naturally happy. Did you thank him? Thank you. Tang Yun curled her lips. Thank him. Thank him for the love letter. Let the whole school know about it. Kid, did you thank him or not? Mrs. Tang shook her head helplessly. She knew that Tang Yun probably didn't thank Lin Yi just by looking at Tang Yun's expression. Her daughter was good at everything, but her personality was a bit arrogant and virtuous. If she'd been born in a rich family, that would have been great, but in this family. Mrs. Tang sighed inwardly. Tang Yun would understand the hardships of life when she was her age. Wasn't she as arrogant as her daughter? But the bitterness of life had worn away her edge, and made her into a profiteer. I already said thank you, so thank you. Tang Yun twisted her body unnaturally. Mom, let me help you, no need. Let's close the stall earlier today and try out the recipe. I'm afraid that the condiment sellers won't be able to buy the ingredients if we wait any longer, Mrs. Tang said as she packed up the stall and prepared to go home. Tang Yun helplessly helped her mother. Why did her mother trust Lin Yi so much? What if this guy just wrote a random recipe? When the time came, it would taste terrible and waste the ingredients. Chapter 170. Chapter 170. Tang Yun's family. Tang Yun went to the supermarket with her mother to buy condiments on the way home. It was just a test, so there was no need to go to the wholesale market. It wouldn't be too late to buy in bulk once the experiment was successful. Mrs. Tang excitedly started to marinate chicken wings and meat skewers according to Lin Yi's recipe. She even hummed a little tune as she looked forward to the future. If the barbecue stall's business could get better, the family's financial situation could be solved as well. Perhaps they'd be able to save enough money for her lover's surgery in the second half of the year. Even Tang Juchen, who was lying on the bed, found it strange that his wife was so happy today. Yin's mom, what's up with you today? Did something good happen? Tang Juchen lay in bed all day, bored out of his mind. He couldn't help his lover even if he wanted to, and there was nothing he could do other than sleep. Er's classmate gave me a barbecue recipe. If we can make it, our business will definitely be booming. Mrs. Tang said as she placed the marinated chicken wings and meat skewers into the fridge to freeze. Are you serious? That's great. Tang Juchen was happy to hear his wife's words. If it really works, then we'll have to thank that classmate. Your precious daughter is so noble and virtuous. That guy has feelings for her, but she ignored him. What a disgrace. Mrs. Tang was a little angry. If she finds someone like you in the future, let's see how she's going to survive. Mrs. Tang's words were harsh, but Juchen wasn't annoyed. He'd been lying in bed for half a year, and he'd understood everything. It was because of his incompetence that he dragged the two of them down. If he'd had some savings, he wouldn't have ended up like this. His wife's unwillingness to leave him made Juchen feel guilty. At the same time, he hoped that his daughter wouldn't have to suffer like this in the future. This wasn't the life of a normal person. However, his wife's words worried Tang Juchen. Is he the son of a rich family? Don't be like Xiaofen's boyfriend, just playing around. I don't think so. Mrs. Tang said. That kid doesn't have the aura of a spoiled brat at all. I think he'll be good to our Een. The house wasn't big, and Tang Yun could hear her parents' conversation clearly. She was a little annoyed, wondering why her mother thought so highly of Lin Yi. This guy was bad, but didn't he have the air of a playboy? Sending Pinliang flying with one kick. Was that considered a playboy? Tang Een couldn't even focus on her studies with Lin Yi in mind. She'd only been reading for a while before getting irritated. She stood up and walked out of her room to see that her mother had already marinated the barbecue meat and was about to try it out. "Mom, can I help you?" Tang Yun couldn't read anymore. She needed something to do. "Then can you skewer some chicken wings for me?" "I'll start the fire." Mrs. Tang put the bamboo skewers aside and went to start the fire. Oh. Tang Yun went to help her mother put the skewers on. She didn't know if it tasted good, but it smelled good. After a few skewers, Mrs. Tang started the fire. Tang Yun put the chicken wings on the barbecue rack and helped her mother fan the fire. It wasn't long before the aroma hit her face. Even Tang Yun, who didn't like meat, couldn't help but salivate. It seemed that Lin Yi wasn't lying. Tang Jucheng smelled the aroma as well. "Yin's mom, this smells good." "What? Are you hungry?" Mrs. Tang hadn't tried it yet, but the aroma alone was enough to tell that it was good. If they roasted it in front of the school or at the food street, there would be a lot of customers. "It'll be ready soon. You can try it first." Tang Jucheng was a little embarrassed. He was lying on the bed and couldn't do anything. The mother and daughter had good food, but they gave it to him first. This made Tang Jucheng feel very useless. If it wasn't for his deep relationship with his wife, Tang Jucheng knew that if anything happened to him, his wife would be very sad. He wanted to commit suicide. Don't be fooled by his wife's usual complaints, saying that she had made the wrong choice back then. However, she was still busy every day for the sake of the family, taking care of the family in good order. "Ian, give this chicken wing to your dad to try." Mrs. Tang passed a grilled chicken wing to Tang Yin, asking her to give it to Tang Jucheng. Tang Yun took the chicken wing and swallowed her saliva as she looked at the golden chicken wing. It smelled so good. But she couldn't bear to eat it. She ran to her father's bed and gave the chicken wing to Tang Jucheng. "Ian, eat it." How could Tang Jucheng not see Tang Yun's drooling face? 10 or 19 years old was the period of growth. Although Tang Jucheng usually ate some meat skewers that weren't too fresh, he was afraid that Tang Yun wouldn't be able to go to school the next day. This chicken wing was obviously marinated. It was very fresh. Tang Jucheng wanted to give it to his daughter. "Dad, I'm not hungry. I'll get fat if I eat too much." Tang Yun shook her head. "Alright, you two stop fighting. Old Tang, hurry up and eat. It's almost done. Ian and I will eat this side." Mrs. Tang said with a smile. "Alright." Tang Jucheng nodded after hearing his wife's words. He took a bite and gave a thumbs up, "You don't say. The taste is really unique. I think it will definitely be popular." At this time, the remaining chicken wings were done. Mrs. Tang gave Tang Yun a skewer and took one for herself. Although Tang Yun didn't want to admit it, she had to admit that the chicken wings this time were much better than the ones her mother made. It was no different from the time Xiaofen's boyfriend treated her, Xiaofen, and Lu Xinwen to a big restaurant. "Ian, what do you think?" Mrs. Tang hadn't eaten yet, but seeing that Tang Yun was enjoying it, she felt that it was a success. "It's okay," Tang Yun said against her will. She didn't want Lin Yi to be too proud, even though Lin Yi wasn't here. Mrs. Tang's eyes lit up after taking a bite. "You child, this is okay. Is your taste too good? I don't think it's any different from the famous barbecue restaurants. I'll roast it like this from now on. I'll go to the wholesale market tomorrow to get some seasonings. It should sell better than before." Tang Yun had to admit that the taste was more attractive to customers. Although most students didn't really care about the taste, they just wanted to fill their stomachs. It was fine as long as it was better than the school cafeteria. But it was undeniable that delicious food would always attract more students. "Ian, this weekend, invite Lin Yi and his classmate to our house. I'll treat them to barbecue to thank them," Mrs. Tang said happily. Of course, she didn't forget the person who dug the well. Chapter 171. Chapter 171, Threats. Lin Yi was woken up by a ringtone early in the morning. Lin Yi had experienced the benefits of sleep these past couple of days. It was a great way to replenish energy. Hello. Lin Yi picked up the phone, still in a daze. Lin Yi? A familiar voice came from the other side. It's Ling Shan. Oh, Lioness, hello. Lin Yi said, still in a daze. What the hell? Lin Yi, what did you call me? Ling Shan exploded at Lin Yi's words. I dare you to say that again. Lin Yi had thought that Ling Shan was a bit violent, so he'd subconsciously given her the nickname Lioness. He hadn't called her that when he was awake, but now that he was in a daze, he blurted out what he was thinking. Ugh. I'm dreaming, fighting a lioness. Lin Yi said, a little embarrassed as he woke up. He couldn't say that out loud even if he was thinking it. Humph. Ling Shan humphed coldly. She knew that Lin Yi was probably bullshitting, but she wasn't in the mood to argue with him. Do you have time? What for? Lin Yi asked. I'll go to your school later, Captain Yang told me to look for you. Ling Shan said. Help me solve this case. Ling Shan was at her wit's end. Searching in the forest was extremely difficult, and there were some dangerous areas that she couldn't send people in one by one. She dragged it out for a few days, and there was no progress at all. She remembered Huaijuan's request, and decided to give it a try. She called up Lin Yi. Truth be told, she wouldn't have called Lin Yi if it weren't for the fact that she trusted Huaijuan as a brother. In her eyes, Lin Yi was just Menyao's bodyguard. What could he possibly do? Ha! Lin Yi smiled faintly. Ling Shan had come to him after all. Alright, but you'll have to help me get a day off first. I can't just skip class all the time, can I? Skipping classes all the time. I'll use you for one day, alright? Ling Shan said, pissed. What does it have to do with me when you skip classes all the time? Yesterday I skipped class because of Brother June, and today I skipped class because of you. Isn't it all your team's business? Lin Yi said. Brother June. Captain Yang. Ling Shan paused, not expecting Huaijuan to talk to Lin Yi yesterday. Naturally, she didn't think that Lin Yi was making things up. There was no reason for Lin Yi to lie about something like this. She could verify it with a phone call. Alright, I'll talk to your dean first. Alright, wait for me at the food street next to school. There aren't many people there in the morning. Lin Yi said as he got out of bed, getting ready to get dressed. Lin Yi had planned to go to school with Mengyao and Yushu today, since he'd been absent for the past couple of days. Jifeng wouldn't say anything about it, but he was still a student. He couldn't always get special treatment, could he? Mengyao and Yushu hadn't really touched the food last night, and Lin Yi didn't feel like eating it. He'd just leave it for the two of them, and he'd ask Ling Shan for help later. She wouldn't be too stingy, would she? In fact, even if Ling Shan hadn't come to Lin Yi would have wanted to dig out the kidnappers anyway. There was no reason for him to spoil Sihua now, since he'd already fallen out with him. He'd deal with these small fries first. He left a note for Mengyao, telling her that he still had things to do today. Lin Yi then drove Yushu's yellow beetle out. He didn't know if Faubert had gotten his driver's license back yet, but he'd let Huaijuan handle it himself. Faubert still needed to use his connections. As he drove past the slums, Lin Yi subconsciously slowed down. He saw Tang Yun standing in front of the bus stop, waiting for a bus. The little rascal who harassed Tang Yun yesterday was there as well. He was waving his arms and legs excitedly, talking to Tang Yun. There were a lot of people at the bus stop, so he didn't dare to make a move. Tang Yun's face was cold as she ignored him, but she couldn't stand the little hoodlum's nonsense. She felt uncomfortable. Fuck. Didn't this kid learn his lesson yesterday? His butt doesn't hurt anymore. Lin Yi turned the steering wheel and slammed on the accelerator, rushing towards the little hoodlum. The tires made a sharp screeching sound as the car made a turn. Lin Yi stopped the car just as he was about to hit the little bastard. Lin Yi was able to control a car like this with ease. Ah! The people waiting at the bus stop jumped in fright, and Tang Yun, who was standing beside the hoodlum, paled. However, the one who was the most shocked was the hoodlum. He was sweating profusely as he looked at the car in front of him, not knowing what to do. After making sure that the car didn't do any damage to him, he jumped out and pointed at Lin Yi's seat. "Fuck your mother. Do you know how to drive? Do you have eyes growing on you? Get out of the car. Do you want to die?" The little hoodlum's arrogant nature was showing again. With that, he reached for the door on Lin Yi's side. Li Erlin thought that the car wasn't bad. It was a Volkswagen Beetle, and it should cost at least 200,000, right? He had to make the driver pay him at least 3 or 5,000. Lin Yi's car door was locked, and Erlin, naturally, couldn't pull it open. He was about to give up when Lin Yi opened the door abruptly and pushed it outwards, causing Erlin to stumble and fall to the ground on his butt. The injury from yesterday was aggravated, and he started wailing as he clutched his butt. "You haven't healed yet, have you? I thought you'd forget the pain now that it's healed. Didn't you learn your lesson from that trapeze on the bus yesterday?" Lin Yi was being domineering. You were the one from yesterday." Li Erlin understood immediately after hearing Lin Yi's words. No wonder the kid suddenly drove over. It was him yesterday. "Ha, you're not stupid. You're just a little dumb." Lin Yi looked at Li Erlin coldly. "Stay away from Tang Yun in the future. You won't be so lucky the next time I see you." After all, the whole school knew that Tang Yun was his girlfriend. It didn't matter if it was true or not, he couldn't just ignore Tang Yun's situation. Actually, Lin Yi would still care about Tang Yun's situation even without this incident. Chapter 172. Rumors confirmed Tang Yin's face paled at Erlin's words. She lowered her head and gritted her teeth. A murderous glint flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. If it weren't for this occasion and his identity, Li Erlin would have been a corpse by now. He looked at Erlin coldly. "Don't give me a reason to touch you. Take care." With that, Lin Yi grabbed Tang Yin's hand. "Get in the car." "Ah. Okay." Tang Yin's heart was a mess. She was panicking at Lin Yi's sudden appearance, but also feeling helpless and nervous at Erlin's words. She didn't know what to do when Lin Yi grabbed her hand like that. She didn't even think about resisting before getting pushed into the passenger seat by Lin Yi. Lin Yi got in the car and drove off after helping Tang Yin settle down. Erlin stared at Lin Yi's car as it drove off. Driving a sissy's car. What's with the act? Just you wait and see. Erlin didn't dare do anything to Lin Yi back at the bus stop. The fact that Lin Yi had thrown him out of the bus yesterday had shaken him quite a bit. At the very least, he could tell that Lin Yi was quite strong, and his butt was still injured. He'd be at a disadvantage if he fought with Lin Yi. But Erlin wasn't going to let it go just like that. Those words weren't just to scare Lin Yi. There was a reason behind it. Could Lin Yi protect Tang Yin all the time? Plus, it wasn't like he didn't have a backer. He'd just tell Master Bing about it, and Lin Yi would be dead. Cursing his bad luck, Erlin stood up and looked at the crowd laughing at him. "What the hell are you looking at? Go do whatever you're supposed to be doing." Hearing Li Erlin's words, the crowd laughed even louder. Someone even whispered, "I just want to see your butt split open." Although Li Erlin was a gangster from Shandy Town, he didn't dare to go against so many people. He could only walk away with a red face. The car drove for a while before Tang Yun came back to her senses. How did she get in the car? And Lin Yi was holding her hand. What the hell had she done? Her mind was in a mess at the time, so she was pushed into the car by Lin Yi. She didn't realize anything was wrong until now. Ah, stop the car. Tang Yun raised her head and looked at Lin Yi helplessly. Her face was red. Why did she get in his car? Now, if someone saw it, wouldn't the rumor become true? Indeed, the rumors had become true. Lu Xinwen was about to call out to Tang Yun when Lin Yi grabbed her hand and got on the car. Xinwen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Tang Yun was already in Lin Yi's car, disappearing from her sight. That Yun girl, how dare she lie to me? She's already in Lin Yi's car, and she's still saying it's nothing. Xinwen stomped her feet. What should we do? Does she not remember Xiaofen's lesson? She was fuming with anger when she saw Erlin limping towards her. Xinwen knew very well that Erlin liked Tang Yun. With Xinwen by Tang Yun's side, Erlin didn't dare to go overboard. What kind of person was Lu Xinwen? She was someone who could chop people with a kitchen knife. She didn't care about her own life. Erlin didn't want to mess with someone like that. Li Erlin, why are you twisting around? Are you itching for a beating? Do you want me to loosen it for you? Xinwen vented her anger on Erlin. No, no. When sis, I fell, and I can't walk properly. Erlin quickly shook his head. He couldn't afford to mess with this woman. Erlin felt that he was so unlucky. Not only did he get bullied by Lin Yi, but he also got scolded by Xinwen. He had to tell Master Bing about this, and let him know how powerful he was. As for Xinwen, he wouldn't be afraid of her after he built a good relationship with Master Bing. Stop the car. You're not going to school? Lin Yi asked as he looked at Tang Yun, who was looking around anxiously. I'm going to school, but put me down. What if someone sees me? Tang Yun was panicking, but she didn't dare move. How could she open the door on a speeding car? I have something to do in the morning, so I won't be going to school. I'll drop you off at the food street later, Lin Yi smiled. Is that okay now? You. Why are you like this? Tang Yun wanted to refute, but couldn't find a reason. She could only glare at Lin Yi. Ever since she met Lin Yi, their relationship had become complicated. Believe it or not, I just happened to pass by, Lin Yi shrugged innocently. Tang Yun didn't believe him. How could there be such a coincidence? They met yesterday, and they met again today. But Tang Yun pouted. She couldn't argue with Lin Yi, and felt wronged. She turned her head and looked out the window, trying not to look at Lin Yi. Yesterday, did you make up a rumor? Tang Yun looked at the scenery outside the window and suddenly remembered that she had something to ask Lin Yi. Yesterday? Lin Yi paused and looked at Tang Yun. He didn't understand, what happened yesterday? You. Tang Yun couldn't tell if Lin Yi really didn't know, or if he was pretending. She gritted her teeth and said, You wrote me a love letter, I wrote you a love letter. Lin Yi paused again. He remembered the rumor in school yesterday and smiled bitterly, Am I such a boring person? If I wanted to pursue you, why would I need to make up a rumor? That, although Lin Yi's words were shameless, Tang Yun didn't doubt it this time. Indeed, Lin Yi was right. If he wanted to pursue her, why would he need to make up a rumor? He had already made her mother happy, and wanted her to be friends with him. Why would he make up a meaningless rumor? That would only make her angrier. Maybe someone saw it and misunderstood. Lin Yi thought to himself. My little aunt, I'm crazy to make up a rumor. There are 2 misses at home, and I even lost my temper last night. Oh. Tang Yun replied pitifully. She pouted, then next time. Don't always look for me. Or else, people will think that it's true. Ah, it's really a coincidence. Lin Yi was helpless. How could he explain this? Every time was a coincidence. Tang Yun ignored him and sat there quietly with her hand under her chin. The car drove to the food street behind the school. Lin Yi parked the car and opened the car's central lock. Chapter 173. Guaranteed to be genuine. Tang Yun turned around helplessly to look at Lin Yi. My mom wants you to bring a friend to my house this weekend. Huh? Go to your house this weekend? Lin Yi blinked. What for? I don't know. Tang Yun said subconsciously. She was afraid that Lin Yi would come to her class and ask her for more details. My mom wants you guys to have barbecue. With that, Tang Yun ran towards the school without looking back, leaving Lin Yi with a face full of shock. Where's your house? He knew that Tang Yun's house was in the slums, but the slums were huge. Who knew where Tang Yun's house was? As for why Mrs. Tang had invited him and Kong Xiaobo to barbecue, it was probably because she'd tested the recipe yesterday and found it to be workable. That was why she'd invited Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo to try it first to show her gratitude. Ah! Lin Yi shook his head and closed the car door, waiting for Ling Shan. Half an hour later, Lin Yi got another call from Ling Shan. Lin Yi, the dean of your school's pretty easygoing, giving you a leave just like that? Where are you? I'll go find you. The food street behind the school. Lin Yi said. He had Jifeng's weakness in his hands, of course he'd give him a leave. Plus, Ling Shan had probably told him that it was official business. Jifeng naturally wouldn't stop her from doing stuff like that. Wait for me, I'll be right there. Ling Shan hung up with that, and about 10 minutes later, Lin Yi saw a civilian cheetah SUV with a license plate starting with Song Ji. Song Ji was a civilian license plate that the police had created for convenience, but the number was already known to the public now. There was no difference between a police car and a police car, and a lot of rich and powerful people would even use their connections to get a license plate like this, just so they could enjoy the privilege of being on the road. Ling Shan didn't see Lin Yi when she got to the food street, only seeing a yellow Beetle parked at the roadside. She was just about to give Lin Yi a call when the Beetle's door opened and Lin Yi got out, walking towards her. Your car. Ling Shan looked at Lin Yi's Beetle. According to her investigation, Lin Yi was hired by Pengzhan to protect Mengyao. There was a possibility that Lin Yi would be assigned a car, but there was no way he'd get a car like this, was there? This didn't fit the image of Lin Yi's bodyguard at all. It's Yushu's. Lend it to me for a couple of days. Lin Yi didn't hide it. There was a license plate on the car, and Ling Shan could just check the owner if she wanted to. Alright, get in then. Ling Shan pointed at the passenger seat. Lin Yi opened the door and got in. Ling Shan started the car and drove to the police station. After a while, Ling Shan saw that Lin Yi wasn't saying anything. She frowned. Aren't you going to say something? Say what? Lin Yi turned to look at Ling Shan, sizing her up. Aren't you the one looking for me? What do you want me to say? Oh. I wanted to say that my leg's healed, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. You can pinch me all you want. You. Ling Shan was a little pissed off. She really didn't know what Captain Yang saw in Lin Yi. Why would he recommend someone like this to her? Lin Yi's shameless words reminded her of the scene in the hospital that day. Bastard. Lin Yi said with a hateful tone. Of course, Lin Yi said faintly as he leaned back on the seat and closed his eyes. Ling Shan didn't know what to say. Lin Yi's words made her speechless. Can you help me find the bank robber that day? You called me here, and you're asking if I can. Lin Yi curled his lips. I really don't know how you got promoted. Other than being a tiger, why don't you have any brains? Ling Shan almost drove the car into the wall. Wasn't this Lin Yi a little too mean? What did he mean by being a tiger? It was true that she was a little impulsive, rushing to the front every time there was a suspect, but that wasn't a tiger, was it? It was just a little more heroic. But, Captain Yang had said that she had this shortcoming. She was the leader, and if she rushed to the front every time, wasn't that just being a hero? Actually, Ling Shan didn't really think that much. It was like a war, where the commander was the first to rush to the front. It was fine if the commander was a little braver, but if he was careless and got ambushed by the enemy, or got injured or even died, then the whole army would be in chaos. Ling Shan understood this after the incident. Fortunately, there weren't any major problems, and she had time to change. In actuality, Ling Shan really was thinking wrongly. Lin Yi's tiger wasn't referring to her bravery in every mission. As far as Lin Yi was concerned, if he had the ability and confidence to take out the enemy, then he would do it himself. He wouldn't let his teammates fight with him. After all, if he had the confidence, then there was no need for unnecessary sacrifices. When Lin Yi said that Ling Shan was a tiger, he was actually referring to her carelessness. For example, when her leg was injured. She didn't see it, and when she knew her leg was injured, she still went to massage it. If that wasn't a tiger, then what was? Alright. Then I hope that with your help, young Master Lin, we'll be able to catch those bank robbers that ran away that day. Ling Shan gritted her teeth and said hatefully. If we can't catch them, then we'll deal with them later. Ha! Let's try. Lin Yi nodded. I can't guarantee anything. Ling Shan really wanted to kick Lin Yi out of the car. If you can't guarantee anything, then what's the point of pretending? Where are you going? Lin Yi asked. To the police station, and then we'll discuss how to catch the suspects. Ling Shan explained. No need. We'll go straight to the area you guys are looking for. Lin Yi shook his head. He knew his strength the best, and discussing wasn't going to work. If those people were really in the area, he'd be able to sense them. If they weren't, then there was no point in discussing. Wah! Ling Shan blinked. Just the two of us. Chapter 174. Sister-in-law and sister-in-law, why wouldn't I dare? Ling Shan knew that Lin Yi was trying to goad her, but she still agreed to it. It was all because of the words Lin Yi said just now. As a former special ops instructor, Ling Shan had nothing to be afraid of. Even if things didn't work out, she'd be able to escape. As for Lin Yi, since he'd asked for it, he couldn't blame anyone else. As far as Ling Shan was concerned, Lin Yi wasn't a bad fighter, but he hadn't gone through professional training in life and death battles. There was still a gap between them. If Lin Yi dared to go, why wouldn't she? Ha, let's go then. Lin Yi didn't care about Ling Shan's reaction. Ling Shan felt like she was playing the lute to a cow. She'd made such a bold statement, and Lin Yi had to at least give her some sort of response. Even a compliment of bravery would do, but Lin Yi didn't say anything at all. According to the surveillance footage we got from the city management, as well as the traffic footage from the main roads, we can confirm that the suspect is hiding in the forest up ahead. Ling Shan said, suppressing her anger. We also found the car nearby, and we found Baldy and Ma Laoyo's corpses in an abandoned warehouse. Ling Shan explained, suppressing her anger. We also found the robber's car nearby, and we found Baldy and Ma Laoyo's bodies in an abandoned warehouse. The robbers have a lot of cash in their hands. If they leave this place with the cash, they will definitely be noticed by the nearby checkpoints. So we judge that if the kidnappers care about the money, then they must still be nearby. Oh, in other words, if they throw away the money, they might run away. Lin Yi nodded and asked. You could say that. Ling Shan said. But if we can get the cash back, we'll have solved half of the case, and I'll be able to answer to my side. If he's here, I can help you look for him. As for the cash, do you really expect me to find it? Do you think I'm a police dog? Lin Yi rolled his eyes. By the way, didn't your captain call himself Hound? You can let him try, screech. The car screeched to a halt on the side of the road, and both Ling Shan and Lin Yi leaned forward from the inertia. "What's wrong with you?" Lin Yi frowned, not understanding why Ling Shan would have such a big reaction. "Don't you dare insult Captain Yang. If you insult him again, please get off the car." Ling Shan glared at Lin Yi, her eyes spitting fire, as if she wanted to eat Lin Yi alive. She looked exactly like the lioness Lin Yi had described. So this was the reason. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Ling Shan was protecting Huaijuan like this. Could it be that she liked Huaijuan? "You like Huaijuan?" Lin Yi asked. "Please don't insult the pure sibling relationship between me and Captain Yang." Ling Shan, on the other hand, corrected him with a serious tone. "Don't use your dirty thoughts to think about my relationship with Yang Duo. I protect him because I respect and worship him. He's like a teacher. Ever since I entered the police station, he's been teaching me, encouraging me, and watching me grow." "Ha!" Lin Yi smiled faintly. "Then, would you be mad if Huaijuan called you a police dog?" "Ah. Me?" Ling Shan paused, not sure why Lin Yi would ask that all of a sudden, but she shook her head. "Why would I? Captain Yang's like a teacher to me, isn't it normal for him to joke around with me?" "Ha!" Lin Yi didn't say anything else. Huaijuan had been the same when he'd first joined the Special Ops team, and Lin Yi had been guiding him step by step. Their relationship was even deeper than Ling Shan's, and that was the kind of friendship that could only be replaced by that of Huaijuan. It was the kind of friendship that could only be replaced. And so, even if Lin Yi were to point at Huaijuan's nose and scold him, Lin Yi would just smile at him. In fact, Lin Yi used to protect his teammates in front of outsiders, but he didn't hold back when he scolded his teammates in front of his own people. Huaijuan was a big man, and he'd cried in front of Lin Yi, a captain who was younger than him. Of course, Lin Yi couldn't tell Ling Shan about this. "Alright, since you're protecting him, I won't say that anymore." Lin Yi nodded. "But you can ask Huaijuan about it later, he doesn't mind me saying that about him." Ling Shan blinked, not understanding what Lin Yi was talking about. Her professional sensitivity had long since made her suspect that there was some secret between Lin Yi and Captain Yang, but because it involved Huaijuan, the person she respected the most, she didn't investigate too much. She believed that Huaijuan was a righteous man, and wouldn't associate with bad people. But now, all the signs pointed to the fact that Lin Yi and Captain Yang had a lot of secrets that she didn't know about. She didn't dare ask Huaijuan, but she could ask Lin Yi. She had to get something out of this guy. Ling Shan thought. "Maybe I'm just too excited." Ling Shan said as she started the car again, her face a lot warmer than before. "Lin Yi, you and Captain Yang, do you know each other?" Ling Shan started beating around the bush. "You could say that, but it was a long time ago. I've pretty much forgotten about him. If he didn't recognize me that day, I wouldn't even remember him." Lin Yi explained calmly, but Ling Shan wouldn't believe him. "Forgotten?" Huaijuan looked happier than if he'd caught a criminal. How could it be as simple as Lin Yi made it out to be? Ling Shan could tell that the captain was really excited that day, he was even talking a little incoherently. "Is that so? Then how did you two meet?" Ling Shan asked. "Didn't your boss tell you not to ask questions you shouldn't ask? I heard you were a special ops instructor before, you shouldn't be this unruly, right?" Lin Yi's one sentence blocked all of Ling Shan's questions. "Do we have a confidentiality system?" Ling Shan was speechless. What kind of confidentiality was that? "You're not from the police force, you're not from the military, what's there to be secretive about? Even if Captain Yang was the captain now, how did you get to know him? You couldn't have anything to do with confidentiality, could you? Don't say it if you don't want to." Ling Shan said, trying to provoke him. "It's not like we're on a mission, what's there to be secretive about? Yeah, I'll tell you when you become my sis-in-law or Huaijuan's sister-in-law." Lin Yi said with a smile. Chapter 175. Chapter 175, Lin Yi's search method, your sister-in-law. Who's your brother? Captain Yang's sister. Who's Captain Yang's brother? Ling Shan asked, confused by Lin Yi's question. I'm Yang Huijuan, June bro, Lin Yi said with a smile. You call him June bro. Ling Shan understood what Lin Yi meant right away. If he called Captain Yang Huijuan bro, then wouldn't Captain Yang be his brother? Wouldn't he be Captain Yang's brother then? Ling Shan's face went red. Do you want to die? Do you want me to kick you out of the car? Ling Shan had retired from the special ops, and no one had dared to tease her like this. Lin Yi was the first, and it wasn't the first time either. This pissed Ling Shan off. Was this guy sent by the heavens to purposely go against her? Miss Song, I'm just telling the truth. Things between me and June bro can only be told to our own people, so if you want to know, you can choose one of them. If you don't want to know, then just focus on driving. Lin Yi was actually just joking, telling Ling Shan to keep her mouth shut in the future. She might say something wrong if she asked too much, and Lin Yi didn't want to continue on this topic. If you don't want to tell me, then don't. Stop finding excuses. Ling Shan humphed as she continued driving. The car was nearing the forest in front of them, and the car couldn't go any further once they reached the foot of the mountain. There was a police cordon at the foot of the mountain, and a couple of officers on duty were standing guard at the foot of the mountain. They quickly walked out when they saw Ling Shan's car. Ling Shan stopped the car at the foot of the mountain, and got out with Lin Yi. Captain Song. One of the officers saluted before greeting Ling Shan. Anything? Ling Shan asked. Nope. The officer shook his head. No one went up the mountain from here, and no one went down. Alright, go do your thing. I'll go up and take a look. Ling Shan didn't have much hope. Captain Song, are you going up by yourself? The policeman looked at Lin Yi in surprise. Could this be Captain Song's rumored boyfriend, the one who couldn't wait to do it in the hospital? And, this young man looks not bad, and he looks quite sturdy. But why is Captain Song going up the mountain with him? After all, the robbers were still on the mountain. This was not a good place to talk about love. I'll go with Lin Yi. Ling Shan pointed at Lin Yi. As expected. The officer remembered that Ling Shan's rumored boyfriend was named Lin Yi. It seemed like this guy really was Captain Song's rumored boyfriend. However, what were they doing going up the mountain at this time? Then. Captain Song, be careful. Do you need to send a few of your brothers to follow behind? The officer wasn't reassured. Ling Shan was the vice captain, but she was still a woman. No need. Ling Shan, naturally, wouldn't let anyone follow her. Since Lin Yi had already said that it was only the two of them going up the mountain, wouldn't it be showing weakness if she brought someone along? The officer saw that Ling Shan was insistent, so he backed off to the side and watched as Ling Shan and Lin Yi walked up the mountain. The people in your team are quite concerned about you. Lin Yi was a little surprised. It seems like you have quite a reputation in the team. What do you think? Ling Shan rolled her eyes and glared at Lin Yi. I'm number one in the female MMA division in the entire province. Ling Shan puffed out her chest proudly. This was an honor that she deserved to be proud of. Ha, number one in everything else too. Lin Yi looked at Ling Shan's impressive breasts and smiled evilly. Ah. Lin Yi, do you want to die? Ling Shan noticed Lin Yi's gaze and that evil smile. How could she not know what he was getting at? You're number one in female MMA, but that doesn't mean you can beat a man. Lin Yi shook his head. At least, I don't think you're a match for Yang Huijuan. So what? I'm not a match for Captain Yang, but taking care of you is child's play. Ling Shan looked at Lin Yi with disdain. You can look down on me if you want, as long as you're stronger than me. Ha! Lin Yi shrugged. Let's fight when we get the chance. Alright, who's afraid of who? I'll make sure you're convinced when the time comes. Ling Shan curled her lips. Naturally, she didn't believe that Lin Yi could be that strong. Anyone could be arrogant. She went up the mountain and saw Lin Yi walking around aimlessly. Ling Shan didn't know what he was trying to do. She followed him at first, but after a while, she still couldn't figure out what Lin Yi was trying to do. Lin Yi was walking around aimlessly, and Ling Shan couldn't take it anymore. Lin Yi would walk here and then go back, walking the same path again and again. She didn't know what he was thinking. Was he messing with her? What are you doing? You're walking around, and I don't see you looking for the robbers. What are you doing? Ling Shan stopped. I'm looking. Lin Yi frowned. Don't interrupt if you don't know anything. If you want me to look, then shut up and follow me. Otherwise, I'll go down the mountain. You. Alright, go look then. I'm not talking. Ling Shan was infuriated, she was just asking, and Lin Yi was scolding her for it. Fine, she'd like to see if he could find the robbers with this kind of method. When he can't find the robbers, we'll settle our old and new debts together. Didn't you want to fight? Fine, now it was. Lin Yi didn't have time to care about what Ling Shan was thinking, he was paying attention to the changes in his jade. Lin Yi didn't have absolute confidence that the jade would warn him when he got close to the robbers. After all, the enemies he'd found with the jade all had deep grudges against him, wanting nothing more than to kill him. These robbers, on the other hand, only had bad intentions towards him at the beginning. Ling Shan held back her anger and followed Lin Yi around the forest, not saying much. Wherever Lin Yi went, she'd go. She'd hold back her anger for now, and when Lin Yi really couldn't find them, that would be the time to settle the score. Ling Shan was even suspecting why the captain would introduce someone like this to her. Ling Shan's scouting skills weren't as high as Huaijuan's, but she had basic scouting knowledge and methods. She'd been a special ops instructor for a long time, after all. She might only be a combat instructor, but she had some understanding of scouting techniques. Lin Yi wasn't looking for them at all, it was like he was just trying his luck. She was thinking when she saw Lin Yi walking towards the cliff. Ling Shan quickly followed. What are you doing? There's a cliff there, there's no way out. Chapter 176. Caught him just like this, hey, what are you doing? Ling Shan said, panicking as she watched Lin Yi walk to the edge of the cliff. It's fine if you can't find them, but don't do anything stupid. Ling Shan couldn't be blamed for thinking like that, there was no path on the other side of the cliff, and Lin Yi was going to fall off if he kept walking. Wasn't that no different from suicide? Was this guy afraid that he wouldn't be able to find Lin Yi and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to settle the score with him and end things there and then? Ling Shan didn't think that Lin Yi was someone like that, there was no way he would be scared of her, no matter how fearless he was. But the truth was right in front of her, and she had to be careful. Lin Yi didn't reply, walking to the edge of the cliff. One more step and he'd fall off when Lin Yi stopped, standing there. Phew! Ling Shan breathed out in relief as she ran to Lin Yi's side. What are you doing? Trying to scare me? Lin Yi didn't reply, closing his eyes and standing there quietly. Hey! Ling Shan raised a brow. Are you angry? You're a man, you can't be that petty, can you? Right down there. Lin Yi opened his eyes and tapped the ground with his foot, making Ling Shan dizzy. Be gentler, don't fall to your death. What do you mean, right down there? Ling Shan blinked, not understanding what Lin Yi was talking about. The kidnappers, right down there. Lin Yi said. Ugh. Ling Shan's face darkened. You're not telling me that the kidnappers are down there, are you? That they fell to their deaths? Not dead. Lin Yi shook his head, the jade wouldn't react to dead people. Not dead. Ling Shan paused. She'd thought that Lin Yi couldn't find them, so he'd come up with some random excuse, telling her that the robbers had jumped off the cliff and died. She didn't expect him to say that they weren't dead. Under my feet, not the cliff. Lin Yi said, stomping his foot again. There's a difference between the two. There should be a cave under this cliff. Cave? Ling Shan didn't understand. Why did it sound so magical? There was a cave on this cliff? I'm guessing. Lin Yi said. You can find someone to take a look. Lin Yi could totally climb down the cliff with his bare hands, but Lin Yi didn't do that. It wasn't his job. He didn't want to do that. His mission was complete, after all, and he didn't want to reveal too much. Bare-handed rock climbing was usually done by special forces, and climbing on this kind of unexplored cliff was not easy even for people who had received professional training. If he'd done it so easily, Ling Shan, who was from the special ops, would naturally suspect him. Are you sure? Ling Shan was in disbelief. Today's events were like the Arabian Nights. Lin Yi walked around the mountain casually before telling himself that there was a cave on the cliff, and the kidnappers were in there. No matter who it was, no one would believe it, because it was simply too unimaginable. I'm sure. Lin Yi nodded. At least the jade had never made a mistake before. He could feel the message from the jade. It seemed that these people had tried to harm him before, and the jade could record it, no matter how strong or weak their grudges were. Then wait for me. I'll go down and take a look. Ling Shan looked down at the cliff and clapped her hands, wanting to go down. At the end of the day, she still didn't believe that the kidnappers were down there. It's best if you don't. Lin Yi wasn't looking down on Ling Shan, but it was a bit difficult for her to take on 4 or 5 kidnappers alone. They have guns. Alright, I'll believe you this once. Ling Shan gave up on the idea of going down herself after hearing Lin Yi's words. She and Lin Yi were trying to control their anger, but it wasn't something that would risk something like this. What if the kidnappers really were down there? You should have believed me in the first place. Why didn't you trust me? Lin Yi understood Ling Shan's suspicions. This was the first time he'd miraculously found the enemy's lair, and Huaijuan and the others were in disbelief as well. I'll contact the chopper and have them bring people over. Ling Shan took out her phone, ready to give the order. It wasn't that she didn't use a chopper to search the area, but this was a forest, and the chopper couldn't fly too low. They'd only searched around in the air, and after finding nothing, they gave up. She really hadn't thought about flying the helicopter into the valley, but since Lin Yi had brought it up so confidently, Ling Shan could only trust him. She'd just take it as Captain Yang's word. Can I go now? Lin Yi saw that Ling Shan was getting ready to contact the chopper, and there wasn't much he could do here anyway. No. Ling Shan rejected decisively. We'll talk about it after we catch them. I still need to go back to class. Lin Yi said. I'll send you back. Ling Shan didn't agree. All right. Lin Yi sat on the ground, looking up at Ling Shan from the bottom up. So majestic, so majestic. Ling Shan didn't understand what Lin Yi was talking about at first, thinking that he was talking about the mountains and the scenery, but when she followed his gaze and saw that it landed on her body, she understood what Lin Yi was talking about. Her face reddened, and she wanted to kick Lin Yi off the cliff. Where are your eyes looking at? There's a part of your body that's too protruding, blocking my view of the blue sky. Lin Yi said innocently. If you keep looking, I'll gouge your eyes out and stomp on them. Ling Shan said, not giving Lin Yi a chance to look. You're threatening me, I'm going to call the police. Lin Yi didn't seem to care at all, still lying on the ground. I'm the police, tell me what you want. Ling Shan glared at Lin Yi. Then it's fine. Lin Yi said. Ling Shan was so pissed that she could only glare at him. It wasn't long before a helicopter flew over, and Ling Shan's phone rang as well. She picked it up and told the person where she was, telling them to search under the cliff. Ling Shan didn't have much hope at first, but it didn't take long for her people to report that they'd caught the culprits. Not a single one was missing, except for the dead Baldy and Ma Lao Lu. Ling Shan really didn't know what to say. What was going on? Did they really catch the culprits? Lin Yi wasn't just making things up, was he just lying to her? It seemed like that wasn't the case. But how did this guy find them? Chapter 177. You deserve it. Ling Shan blushed a little as she listened to the praises from her subordinates. She looked at Lin Yi, who was lying on the ground as if nothing had happened. She felt very conflicted. She told them to bring Lin Yi back to the police station, and that she'd be heading back soon. She hung up after that. She'd definitely get a lot of credit this time. She could already imagine the smile on the director's face when he saw her, but she couldn't bring herself to be happy at all. There was no other reason than that Lin Yi had found the robbers, and she didn't know what to do. Hello. Ling Shan hung up and waited for a while, but Lin Yi didn't say anything. She turned around and crouched down, looking at Lin Yi. We found the kidnappers. How did you do it? Weren't you following me? Lin Yi's eyes were half open as he looked at Ling Shan. What a majestic sight. Ling Shan thought to herself. She had indeed been following him, but he'd been running around aimlessly, and I had no idea how he'd found the robbers at all. Plus, what made him so sure that the robbers were at the bottom of the cliff? Observation. Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't tell her about the jade. Careful observation and bold deduction. I walked around the mountain without a clue, but I didn't really have no clue. Oh. Ling Shan was starting to believe Lin Yi's words. It looked like he'd been walking around aimlessly, but it wasn't really aimless. After all, Lin Yi had found the robbers. I just did what the robbers would do. Lin Yi said. The robbers would have done the same thing when they first came up the mountain, running around aimlessly. They didn't have any recon or counter-recon training, so they wouldn't have been able to look for a hiding spot carefully. They're not like you guys, they're not professionals. So, I thought about things from the robbers' point. What would I do if I were them? That's why I wandered around the mountain. I couldn't find a place to hide. Eventually, I set my eyes on the place that people would most likely overlook and would least suspect. If I were a robber, I would take the risk and send someone to explore the cliff to see if there was a cave below. If there is, then it will be very difficult to be discovered if I hide inside. With enough food, I can basically live peacefully for a while. When the limelight is over and the checks are not strict, then I can find an opportunity to escape. That's it. Ling Shan, on the other hand, felt that Lin Yi was making up some nonsense. It made sense, and it explained why he was wandering around the mountain earlier. What else can I do? Lin Yi shrugged. Did I bring any high-tech equipment? Not really. Ling Shan nodded, believing Lin Yi's words. But, that's a pretty bold guess. It's not bold. Since the robbers aren't as professional as you guys are, do you think they're more professional than you guys? Lin Yi asked. So, if they're not, then they're taking the risk and hiding in a dangerous place. No matter what, thank you. Ling Shan thought that Lin Yi's method of searching was way too simple. It was almost like a joke, but she couldn't say anything since he'd found them. You're welcome. I was hired by Mr. Chu. These people are trying to harm Miss Chu, so it's only natural that I cooperate with you guys to find them. No need to thank me. Lin Yi was telling the truth this time. No wonder Captain Yang would recommend you to me. Ling Shan said. But, who did you learn all this from? Ah, we just have different ways of thinking. Lin Yi didn't answer the question directly. You're looking at it from a police point of view, I'm looking at it from a normal person's point of view. Then how long are you going to keep looking? Ling Shan suddenly changed the topic. Should I keep lying down for you to look at? Should I open up my collar too? Ahem. Lin Yi coughed dryly. Ling Shan had seen where he was looking, and he'd been talking so much with a straight face. This made Lin Yi a little embarrassed. I'm looking at the sky, then keep looking. I'm leaving. Ling Shan stood up and turned to leave. I'm not looking anymore. Let's go. Lin Yi jumped up from the ground and patted the dust off his clothes. The police line at the foot of the mountain had been removed, but the two officers on duty were still there. They were waiting for Ling Shan to come down from her car. Captain Song, you're the best. You just walked around the mountain and you found their hideout. Evidently, the two officers had received the news that the robbers had been arrested. Ling Shan blushed. This wasn't her work at all, it was Lin Yi who'd found it. She looked at Lin Yi from the corner of her eyes, but he acted as if he hadn't heard anything, walking towards the car and getting ready to get in. Ling Shan breathed out in relief and turned to the two officers. You guys leave too. I still have something to do. I'll be back in a bit. Alright, Captain Song. The two officers got into their own car. Ling Shan opened the door and got in with Lin Yi. She quickly started the car and left the place. What the two had said just now made her feel very embarrassed. Remember, this work is yours. It has nothing to do with me. Lin Yi said suddenly. Ah. Ling Shan paused and looked at Lin Yi, a little surprised. What did he mean? Drive properly. Watch the road. Lin Yi reminded. Only you know about this. Don't tell anyone else. I have a lot of things to do right now. I don't have time to deal with other things. There's a reward at the police station. Anyone who can provide information about the robbers will get 200,000. You don't want it? Ling Shan didn't understand why Lin Yi was avoiding the responsibility so cleanly. I do, but I don't want trouble. Lin Yi said. Do you really think these people are the kidnappers? That there's no one behind them? You're saying that you're afraid that the people behind them will take revenge on you. Ling Shan was starting to understand what Lin Yi was saying. Not revenge. I know who the people behind them are. Lin Yi shrugged nonchalantly. I ruined their plans. Naturally, they'll know of my existence. But that's not the trouble I'm talking about. I don't want to get involved in what happens after this. I'm only employed by Pengzhan. Do you understand? Just say that you don't want to meddle in other people's business. You don't need to talk so much nonsense. Ling Shan was pissed. So the reason Lin Yi said all this was so that she wouldn't have to bother him in the future. Chapter 178. Chapter 178, Injustice. Ling Shan's lips curled. Don't think that just because you got lucky and got the kidnappers, you're good. Tricks like that weren't worth mentioning at all. It might work once in a while, but it wasn't the way to go. Of course, Ling Shan didn't know that Lin Yi was just bullshit. There was no way Lin Yi would use such a stupid method to find the kidnappers. Huaijuan wouldn't have recommended him if that was all he had, and he wouldn't have come here to join in the fun. Ling Shan, on the other hand, was just pissed off at Lin Yi's perverted eyes. She thought he was a shameless person as well. Don't worry, I won't trouble you unless it's something big, young Master Lin. Ling Shan curled her lips. He was just a bodyguard, not a real young master, and yet he was putting on airs like that. Did he really think he was that capable? Ah, that's good. Lin Yi nodded, pleased. Do you know this Li Zihua? Li Zihua? Ling Shan's eyes narrowed as if she'd thought of something. You're saying that you suspect the mastermind behind these kidnappers is Li Zihua? It's not a suspicion, it is. Lin Yi said. Is it? How do you know? Ling Shan asked, surprised. Is it Mr. Chu? No, it's Li Zihua himself. Lin Yi didn't hide anything from Ling Shan. It'd save him a lot of trouble if she could investigate Zihua and send him to jail. Li Zihua himself? He told you that? Ling Shan looked at Lin Yi oddly, finding it hard to believe. Do you have proof? He tried to get me to join his faction yesterday. Lin Yi said. He's just a representative of the interested party. That's all I know, but I rejected him. As for proof, of course I don't have it. He's very arrogant, and he's not afraid of getting dragged into this at all. So it's him. Ling Shan tightened her grip on the steering wheel. I've been investigating him, but there's a lot of resistance. The person behind him has a lot of power. Even Captain Yang couldn't handle him, let alone me. Ling Shan was very angry as she spoke, but it wasn't surprising. This was the first case she'd taken on after entering the police force, and it involved Zihua and the person behind him. It was as if there was an invisible hand obstructing the investigation, and the pressure from all sides forced Ling Shan to give up on the case. This had become a thorn in Ling Shan's heart. She knew that it wouldn't be enough to get rid of Zihua, but Zihua was a cunning man, and his business dealings were both black and white as well. It was almost impossible to get anything on him without evidence. Ling Shan couldn't do anything to him at all. Who's the person behind him? Lin Yi asked. Lin Yi had never cared if a person had a lot of power or background. He didn't care about that at all. Back when he'd saved Ning from a general's manor in a small country in Africa, Lin Yi had kicked the general's son in the balls, but the general's son hadn't even dared to let out a fart. He had an army, he had weapons, but it was useless against Lin Yi. Lin Yi could enter the general's manor without a care in the world, so naturally, he could come a second time. He could have opinions about Lin Yi, and he could take revenge, but the next time Lin Yi came, it wouldn't be his son's balls that were kicked in, but his head. There were simply too many people who died in Lin Yi's hands. Drug dealers, gambling kings, underworld tycoons. The person behind Zihua wasn't much at all, and Lin Yi could make him disappear from the face of the earth without a trace. He's from the capital. You wouldn't know him even if I told you, Ling Shan said vaguely, evidently not wanting to talk about it. Oh. Lin Yi could tell that Ling Shan's emotions weren't normal. He looked at her deeply, as if this was a taboo. It's better if you don't get involved in this. Ling Shan said, caring for Lin Yi. Captain Yang and I can't touch this person now, and the director can't either. If you get involved, you might lose your life. Just be an obedient follower. If he doesn't mess with me, I won't bother with him. Lin Yi smiled. Ling Shan rolled her eyes at Lin Yi, thinking that he was bragging. She parked the car in front of Songshan's first school and unlocked the door. I'll remember what happened today. I owe you one. I'll treat you to a meal next time. Sure. Lin Yi nodded without thinking. Ling Shan didn't know what to say. She wanted to treat Lin Yi from the bottom of her heart, but he couldn't just accept it so shamelessly, could he? She had to push it a little. Lin Yi didn't care about what Ling Shan was thinking. He got out of the car and walked into the school. In the floating cloud bar, Zihua had already smashed 4 or 5 bottles of 80-year-old red wine, and the floor was covered in red juice that looked like fresh blood. Su Jiaonang stood at the side, his head lowered as he handed over the 82 la fight that the waiter had just brought over. Zihua bro, here. Motherfucker. Zihua took the wine and smashed the LCD TV in front of him with a glass stick. A crack appeared on the LCD, and the red wine splashed everywhere. The 82 la fight was worth a lot, but it depended on what it was compared to. Compared to 2 golden class masters, this red wine was nothing. Those were 2 golden class masters. One was golden class early phase, and the other was golden class peak. They were people who could do whatever they wanted in the city, and yet they died in a car accident. This was something that Zihua couldn't accept. Sihua would have accepted it if they'd been killed by someone else. After all, he wasn't strong enough, and he couldn't blame anyone for his death. But these two had died unjustly. Sihua had the investigation results in his hands, and he wasn't at ease at all. He'd sent a few more experts to investigate the accident, but the results were still the same: the left front tire burst, and the car suddenly veered off course. Because the car was going too fast, it lost control and crashed directly into the ditch. As for how the left front tire burst, it was unknown because the tire had been burned to ashes. At present, they could only make a judgment from the tire marks on the road. Sihua suspected that Lin Yi had done something to it, but he didn't have any proof. Besides, he didn't believe that Lin Yi could do anything to a speeding car, but Sihua was still going to put the blame on Lin Yi. If it weren't for the fact that they were after him, would these two golden class masters have died in a car accident? Chapter 179. Chapter 179. Master Bing. Sihua knew that he'd be the target of a torrent of abuse from that person, but he had to make the call. If he didn't and that person got the news first, it'd be the end of his job as the spokesperson. Sihua, on the other hand, was a man of his own stature. He was a man who could shake the world with a single stomp of his foot, a man who could summon the wind and rain, but that was only on the surface. One word from the person behind him, and a new Sihua Wang or Sihua Sun would take over his position. As a result, Sihua had to be careful and cautious in front of the person behind the scenes. "Boss," Sihua said as he dialed up the person behind the scenes. "Hurry up, I'm in a meeting." The person's impatient voice sounded after the call was connected. Everyone else treated Sihua with respect, but this person didn't seem to care about him at all. "Boss, Li Yao and Zhang Long got into a car accident," Sihua said carefully. "Send them to the hospital if they got into a car accident. Small injuries are nothing to them. What's there to talk to me about? Is there anything else?" The boss said impatiently. "Boss, it's not a small injury," Sihua said bitterly. "Boss, they got a flat tire on the national highway, and the car went straight into a ravine. Serious injuries?" The boss's voice deepened, evidently starting to take the situation seriously. "Dead," Sihua said. "What? Dead?" The boss's voice was visibly shocked. "Wait a sec, I'll talk to you outside the meeting room." "All right," Sihua said quickly. After a while, the voice of the behind-the-scenes boss came from the phone again. "What's going on?" "They died in a car accident. 2 golden class masters." "Boss, it's like this." Sihua didn't dare hide anything, and told the boss about how he'd met Lin Yi yesterday, and how he'd gotten Li Yao and Zhang Long to kill off Lin Yi after Lin Yi's rejection. Lin Yi. The boss repeated the name. "This was done by him." "I'm not sure myself, boss. But from the looks of it, he's probably on the same level as Li Yao," Sihua said. "The same level as Li Yao, that means he's an early golden class." "Are you sure?" the behind-the-scenes boss asked. "I'm pretty sure," Sihua said. "Okay, I know about this," said the behind-the-scenes boss faintly. "I still have a meeting, but don't think that I won't hold you accountable. You'd better behave yourself during this period of time. In addition, Lil Bing will go to your place to play for a few days." Okay, is it Master Bing?" "That's great, boss, don't worry, I'll treat you well," Sihua promised. This Master Bing was called Zhao Qibing, the illegitimate son of the boss behind the scenes. Of course, not many people knew about this, but Sihua was one of them. Zhao Qibing's identity on the surface was a young entrepreneur in the province, but if it wasn't for the support of the boss behind him, he wouldn't have been able to make it big from a young age. After hanging up, Sihua breathed out in relief. From the tone of the behind-the-scenes boss, at least he didn't have the intention to replace him. The severity of the investigation was far lower than he had imagined. But the fact that the behind-the-scenes boss sent his illegitimate son to his place meant that the boss was more or less dissatisfied with him. Sending Zhao Qibing over was more or less to keep an eye on him. Sihua knew very well what kind of person Zhao Qibing was. He was a typical playboy, and perhaps it was because of the fact that he was an illegitimate son that he'd been suppressing for too long. Now that it had erupted, he was even more arrogant and playboy than the boss's son. So, this could be said to be a good opportunity. As long as he did what he liked and let Zhao Qibing have a good time here, everything would be solved. With that thought, Sihua's mood improved again. When Lin Yi returned to school, it was just the 4th period after break. "Boss, you're too amazing, aren't you? Missing class every day." Kong Xiaobo turned around and said softly. "It's still a matter with the police, it's not over yet," Lin Yi said. "Oh, I see." Kong Xiaobo heard that it was still a matter with the police, so he didn't ask much. "Are you free this weekend?" Lin Yi suddenly remembered that Tang Yun said that they were going to her house for barbecue, so he asked. "Weekend?" "Yeah, what's up, boss?" Kong Xiaobo didn't have anything to do, so when he heard that Lin Yi had plans for the weekend, he was very excited. "Tang Yun's mother invited us to her house for barbecue this weekend, do you want to go?" Lin Yi asked. "Tang Yun's mother? No way, right? Boss, you've made great progress already." Kong Xiaobo's eyes widened as he looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. "She's here already? Can you not think so much?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "I just gave her a recipe, and she might have succeeded in testing it. She's inviting us to her house to express her gratitude. Are you going or not?" Of course I'm going." Kong Xiaobo quickly nodded. "Then we'll contact each other this weekend." Lin Yi shook his head, seeing that Kong Xiaobo was even more enthusiastic than him. Guan Xian worked 1 day and 1 night, 24 hours and 24 hours off. Guan Xian, on the other hand, wasn't in a good mood. She'd been happily waiting for Lin Yi to come for the change, but he hadn't come even after a day and night. She'd been in a daze all the way until she got off work, and couldn't help but ask the lady in the same department if Lin Yi had been coming for the change these past few days. The lady had an impression that Lin Yi's last change was a few days ago, and he hadn't come after that. Guan Xian was a bit disappointed after hearing the lady's words. She didn't know why, but she was looking forward to seeing Lin Yi. She was looking forward to coming to work when she was resting at home. This was something that had never happened before. Was it because Lin Yi took the bullet for her? Or was it something else? Guan Xian didn't know, but she felt empty when she didn't see Lin Yi. She was worried about his wounded. Gunshot wounds weren't that easy to heal. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have recovered, but why didn't he come to change his bandages? Was he purposely avoiding her? Women's thoughts were always complicated, and Guan Xian's thoughts started to run wild. She started to worry about her gains and losses. When she got home, she saw her grandpa happily plowing the yard, looking like he was planning to plant something. Chapter 180. Chapter 180, The Worried Nurse. "You're back, Xian. Xuemin put down his work with a smile. "I'm plowing the ground and planting some herbs." "Oh. You seem to be in a good mood, Grandpa." Guan Xian forced a smile. She didn't want to spoil her grandfather's mood when he was in such a good mood, so she tried to keep her emotions as normal as possible. I met a miracle doctor yesterday. He had a lot of insights that cleared up a lot of questions I've had for most of my life." Xuemin was still in a good mood from his meeting with Lin Yi yesterday. What an amazing young man. Young man. Miracle doctor. Guan Xian was a little surprised. Her grandfather was a leading figure in the Chinese medical world, and was known as Miracle Dr. Guan. According to him, the person who could become a divine doctor, how powerful must that person be? But from what her grandfather was saying, it seemed like this person was still very young. A young man. Age doesn't determine one's ambitions. Xuemin waved his hand. We may not be master and disciple in name, but we've been master and disciple at times. I treat him as a master and disciple. Treat him as a master and disciple. Guan Xian's eyes went wide as she stared at her grandfather in disbelief. He didn't look like he was sleepy, did he? Was there really someone that amazing? Xian, this young man's not bad. When you're free, make us some dishes and I'll invite him over. Xuemin smiled. You're not young anymore, Xian, it's time to think about marriage, Grandpa. Guan Xian twisted her body and lowered her head shyly, but for some reason, Lin Yi's image flashed through her mind. It wasn't that Guan Xian didn't understand her grandpa's meaning, it seemed like he was trying to matchmake her with the miracle doctor that much. But Guan Xian wasn't too interested in this, the two of them didn't even know each other, and Guan Xian blushed just thinking about it, haha. Xuemin naturally didn't understand his granddaughter's thoughts, and thought that she was shy. Go back to your room and get some rest, you didn't sleep well on duty last night, did you? Grandpa, I'll be going upstairs then. Guan Xian nodded and sighed as she entered the villa and headed for her room. After school in the evening, Lin Yi had to go to the food street to get his car. After parting ways with Kang Xiaobo, he walked towards the food street. He'd sent a message to Yushu and Mengyao, telling them that he'd driven to school and wouldn't be leaving with them tonight. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to ask Mrs. Tang about the specific time and address of the barbecue stand. However, Mrs. Tang did not open her stand today, so Lin Yi could only drive away. Lin Yi didn't go straight to Mengyao's villa, but went to Yushu's first. Lin Yi wanted to get her computer so that it'd be easier for him to search for information. The layout of Yushu's villa was basically the same as Mengyao's, and even the decorations were similar. They must have done it together. Lin Yi sweated as he looked at the panties strewn all over the living room and the sofa. He didn't want Yushu to think he was some kind of pervert. Yushu wasn't here, so she wouldn't know about it. He went upstairs, and this was Lin Yi's first time seeing the upstairs of the villa. Menyao's place should be pretty much the same. There were 4 rooms upstairs, and Lin Yi found the study and moved the computer downstairs. He locked the door and left the villa. Lin Yi didn't touch anything else in the villa. Miss Chen wasn't that easy to mess with, and he'd have another handle on him if he touched anything of hers. Mengyao and Yushu were watching TV in the living room when Lin Yi got back to the villa. For the first time ever, the two of them were watching TV in the living room. Usually, they'd go upstairs when they got home. Mengyao and Yushu glanced at Lin Yi when he came back with a computer before turning their eyes back to the TV screen. Lin Yi glanced at the TV screen, it was a celebrities concert, and a pretty girl was jumping up and down on the stage. It was just that she was wearing a little too much clothes. Lin Yi thought that it'd be great if she wore a little less. Hey, do you want to watch the concert with us? The superstar Su Shihan is there too. Yushu's eyes didn't leave the screen. Oh, I'll pass. You guys go ahead. Lin Yi wasn't very interested in celebrity concerts like this, there was just too much negative news in the showbiz, and it made Lin Yi think that the girl on the TV was just pretending to be innocent, tricking young girls like Mengyao and Yushu. Mengyao and Yushu didn't show too much displeasure when Lin Yi didn't watch the concert. The girl was their idol, after all, and it didn't matter to them whether Lin Yi liked her or not. Lin Yi carried the computer back to his room, only to find that the network card's light wasn't on after connecting it. The cable on the wall was working, and the only possibility was that the cable wasn't connected to this room. Lin Yi walked out of the room again. Yao, where's the cable to the house? There's no signal in my room. It's upstairs, go do it yourself. Don't bother me watching the concert. Mengyao said impatiently with a wave of her hand. Lin Yi's room hadn't been occupied before, so it was only natural that the cable wasn't connected properly. Me? Go upstairs? Lin Yi blinked. Wasn't he not allowed to go upstairs? Was he supposed to let him go today? Although both of them were downstairs, it was still their own little world upstairs, right? You can't go to my and Shu's room, the data box is in the middle of the staircase. General Weiwu, follow him, bite him if he goes anywhere else. Meng Yao was clearly obsessed with the concert, and she didn't even care if Lin Yi went upstairs. But she wasn't stupid enough to send General Weiwu to follow him. But would that work? General Weiwu let out a low growl, wagging its tail unwillingly beside Meng Yao's feet. What? You want to watch the concert too? Meng Yao thought that General Weiwu was reluctant to leave. Perverted dog. Woof. General Weiwu growled again and ran towards Lin Yi. However, it didn't dare get too close to Lin Yi, following behind Lin Yi meekly. Lin Yi was excited and nervous at the same time. He'd gone to Yushu's house earlier, and he'd gone to the second floor, but it had been a long time since anyone had lived there. Yushu had moved in for a while now, and there was nothing to be excited about in an empty room. Chapter 181. Chapter 181, Secrets in the Computer. But since Meng Yao had said that the data box was between the first and second floors, there was no way Lin Yi was going upstairs. General Weiwu couldn't stop him, and wouldn't stop him, but Lin Yi wasn't the type of person who liked to peep at people. Even if he were to go upstairs, he'd do it openly. What was the point of sneaking around like this? Lin Yi walked up the stairs quickly, and found a hidden data box on the wall between the first and second floors. It was wallpapered, and he wouldn't be able to tell if he didn't look closely. Lin Yi opened the data box. He didn't know much about the network, but the labels on the data box were clear. Evidently, the people living in the villa area were all rich people, and not many of them knew about the wiring. The developers had taken this into consideration when they built the house, and the switches in each room were clearly labeled. All they had to do was follow the instructions on the labels, and everything would be fine. As expected, the data box in his room didn't have a phone or internet connection. Lin Yi turned on the internet, but didn't need a phone. He had a phone, after all, and didn't need a phone. With that done, Lin Yi closed the data box and went downstairs. Meng Yao only glanced at him, noticing that he'd come down so quickly, and that General Weiwu didn't react at all. She decided that Lin Yi probably hadn't gone up to the second floor, and so she turned her attention back to the TV. Yushu and Su Shihan were dancing excitedly. Lin Yi wasn't interested at all. He went back to his room and started looking at Yushu's computer. It was a branded computer, with nice specs and looks, but it was a little feminine. The case and monitor were very bright and colorful, and even the mouse and keyboard were very stylish. Girls liked stuff like that. But Lin Yi wasn't picky about stuff like that, he'd just have to make do with it. He plugged in the computer and turned it on, entering the system in no time at all. Yushu's desktop was very clean, with almost no software. There were only QQ and Feishin, a video player, and a few other common software. There weren't any professional ones at all. Lin Yi opened the D drive of the computer. There were two folders inside. One was a video, and the other was a photo album. Lin Yi got a little excited when he saw the folder name. It couldn't be Yushu, could it? He turned his head to look at the locked door before opening the videos folder with shaky hands. As for Yushu, Lin Yi had always had a good impression of her. She was the type of girl that people liked easily. She looked like a brainless, carefree girl, but she was actually very shrewd. In contrast to Meng Yao's arrogance, Yushu was much more approachable and approachable. She was basically the bridge between him and the miss, and it was only natural that Lin Yi had a good impression of her. Lin Yi was practically drooling at the thought of Yushu's explosively hot body. Hee, Miss Chen, you didn't think that I'd have something on you, did you? Lin Yi looked at the videos folder with a perverted gaze, only to feel a wave of disappointment wash over him. Damn it, it was all music videos or concerts of Su Shihan. Where were the selfies? Lin Yi clicked on 2 random ones without much interest, and it was exactly the same as the one he'd seen on TV. The singer was quite pretty, but Lin Yi didn't want to waste his time on an imaginary idol. He'd rather use that time on his own things. Teasing Tang Yun. Flirting with Yushu. Bickering with Ling Shan. Even seeing Miss Chu glaring at him wasn't bad, It was better than watching videos of his idol. At least it was someone he'd seen in real life. Closing the videos folder, Lin Yi placed all his hopes on the albums folder, but Lin Yi didn't have much hope this time. After all, he'd been disappointed once before. There was a high chance that this albums folder contained pictures of Su Shihan, if he were to go by the content of the videos. Lin Yi opened the albums folder, not as excited as before. But as soon as he opened it, Lin Yi's eyes widened. There were 2 folders in the albums folder, one was called Su Shihan, and the other was called My Albums. Lin Yi's disappointed heart was once again filled with excitement. The Su Shihan folder was automatically filtered out by him, and Lin Yi opened the My Albums folder. As expected, there were some scattered pictures inside, and from the names of the files, it was obvious that they were taken with a digital camera or a phone. Lin Yi's heart was filled with excitement. He quickly double-clicked on the first picture, anxiously waiting for the computer to respond. It only took a second, and Lin Yi's eyes were glued to the computer screen. Actually, Lin Yi's nature was the same as other normal boys. A bit of a pervert. The pictures opened, and it wasn't the selfie style that Lin Yi was expecting, but a normal life picture. Yushu was sitting on the sofa, looking a little lazy and immature, but still beautiful all the same. The date on the picture showed that it was taken 3 years ago, when Yushu was in her first year of high school. Lin Yi flipped through the album, and other than Yushu, there were also pictures of Mengyao and Yushu. There were also pictures of the 2 of them together, some of them in their pajamas, but they weren't out of bounds. They could be counted as private pictures, but they were a far cry from the selfie type. Even so, Lin Yi was still enjoying it. He lived under the same roof as these 2 beauties, and Lin Yi was too embarrassed to look at them with his eyes wide open. Now that he had the pictures, it was easier to look at them. From the time of the pictures, Lin Yi could see that Mengyao and Yushu had changed from 2 young girls to the beautiful women they were now. These pictures were proof of their growth and friendship, and it was very precious. Most of the pictures were of the 2 going out and having fun, and the 2 would go on a trip every winter and summer break. Lin Yi just didn't know who was taking the pictures. It couldn't be Faubert, could it? Lin Yi couldn't help but think of Faubert huffing and puffing behind the 2 girls with a camera on his back. Well, it seemed like a part of Faubert's work had been transferred to him already. Was he the Mrs. Follower now? Lin Yi stopped smiling at the thought. Next time, he'd probably be the one carrying the camera around, wouldn't he? Chapter 182. A warning to the head. Lin Yi didn't have anything else to do at the moment, so he opened up the internet and searched for the name, Xihua. Most of the news was positive, and only a few small forums had some comments about how Xihua was a local boss, saying that he could do whatever he wanted. None of that was of any use to Lin Yi. Lin Yi closed the webpage and turned to search for information about Dr. Kong. Since Lin Yi was planning to show off his skills in the medical industry, it was a necessity for him to know about this Dr. Kong. What Lin Yi didn't expect was that the man was Kong Xiaobo's grandfather. It was a bit of a coincidence. A man couldn't live without money. His old man was very strict with him, but Lin Yi had never complained about it. A mission was worth a few hundred kuai. It wasn't even as much as the funds for the mission. His Shifu wasn't a stingy man, and the rest of the money would be transferred to his old man's account, other than the portion that the organization had to keep. But the old man only gave him a few hundred kwai. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to argue about it. The only possibility was that the old man had taken the money for himself. But to Lin Yi, the old man was like a father to him, the one who'd raised him from a young age. If the old man was greedy, then so be it. Lin Yi could only pretend that he didn't know anything about it, since he didn't have to worry about food and clothing. What Lin Yi didn't understand, however, was why the old man was still so poor after taking the money. Was he a modern-day granddette? He was getting Pengzhan's salary every month, but Lin Yi didn't have a source of income of his own. Who knew what was going on with this mission? Lin Yi still couldn't figure it out. He had to leave a backup plan. What if he lost his job? Lin Yi had truly fallen in love with his current life. He went to school like any other high schooler. He had his friends, and the girl he had a crush on. From the reviews on the internet, Dr. Kang's reputation was pretty good. It was just that the medicine was either too popular or too hard to get a hold of, resulting in a situation where there wasn't a market for it. But that only served to prove how amazing the medicine was. Lin Yi hadn't seen what Dr. Kang's golden creation looked like, but Lin Yi was confident that his old man's prescription wouldn't be much worse than Dr. Kang's. The market would probably be split in two if he were to bring it out. Lin Yi didn't have anything to do the next day, so he naturally wouldn't drive to school by himself. Meng Yao and Yushu were yawning as they walked downstairs, evidently having stayed up late last night to watch the concert. Lin Yi didn't think much of the star's attractiveness at all. She was a bit prettier than Meng Yao and Yushu, but that was only because of the makeup and the stage effects. Meng Yao and Yushu were on par with the star in terms of quality, and Lin Yi felt that he'd rather watch his two girls than the star. That concert yesterday was so good. I wonder when Lil Han's coming to Songshan for her concert. Yushu was still thinking about the show last night. Man, Songshan's not a provincial city, and it's not a special economic zone either. It'll probably be a little difficult. Meng Yao said. We have to get a Blu-ray of the concert. We didn't get enough of it yesterday. Yeah, we'll go buy it at noon. See if there's a music store near the school. Yushu nodded. But there don't seem to be any legal ones near the school. We'll have to go to the bookstore if we want to buy the original one, Lin Yi. Meng Yao called out to the idling Lin Yi. Go get us a Blu-ray of Su Shirhan's 2011 concert if you're free this afternoon. The first one was a month ago. I'm sure they'll be selling it by now. Ugh. Okay. Lin Yi nodded as he watched the two star-chasers chatting away. It was a small matter. Lin Yi didn't think much of it. Ha, you're so smart, Yao Yao. With Shield Bro running errands, we don't have to walk that far anymore. Yushu had been grumbling about how far it was to walk to the bookstore, about 1 kilometer, and she didn't want to trouble Faubert to come over at noon. Meng Yao handing the task to Lin Yi straight away made her very happy. I didn't hire him to hit on girls, I hired him to do things. Meng Yao curled her lips as she glared at Lin Yi. Ah. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. It wasn't her business if he hit on girls, was it? It was fine as long as he didn't hit on the miss. Even a follower needed love. Lin Yi looked out of the window when Faubert's car arrived at the slums. Lin Yi let out a breath of relief when he saw that Tang Yun was safe and sound, waiting at the bus stop. It seemed like that little gangster wasn't bothering Tang Yun today. Zhou Ruoming was furious. Yes, he was furious to the extreme. Lin Yi and Tang Yun were walking together. Naturally, Zhou Ruoming heard about Lin Yi and Tang Yun's confession and Tang Yun's shyness. The school was only that big, how could the Big Four not know about it? Originally, Zhou Ruoming had a good plan. He would force Tang Yun to abdicate at her mother's place, and then create a false impression that Tang Yun was Zhou Ruoming's girlfriend. He would let the whole school know about this, and Tang Yun would have no choice but to accept him. But the plan changed quickly. Zhou Ruoming didn't think that Lin Yi would come out of nowhere and ruin his plan. He even got slapped in the face and became a laughing stock. This made Zhou Ruoming lose face, and at the same time, he hated Lin Yi. He planned to let his big brother, Zhou Ruoguang, teach Lin Yi a lesson. But because of what happened with Hebao Bro, Zhou Ruoming didn't dare to let his big brother teach someone a lesson in the school. He could only wait for a suitable opportunity, or wait for the storm to blow over. One had to know that Hebao Bro was in the police station and was going to be sentenced. Although Pinliang's father suppressed the matter and didn't implicate Pinliang's father, Zhong Fabai, wasn't able to get Hebao Bro out of jail. This was proof of how big the matter was. In fact, Songshan First High wasn't a normal high school, but a private school with a strong background. Zhou Ruoming could imagine that if Zhong Pingliang's uncle wasn't one of the directors of the school, he would have been expelled a long time ago. As a result, Ruoming had no choice but to bear with it for the time being. But that opportunity didn't come. The rumors that had been spreading around the school yesterday were like a hammer to his head. Ruoming was dumbfounded. Chapter 183. Chapter 183, Zhong Pinliang's trick. Zhou Ruoming was starting to panic. Tang Yun was one of the best girls he'd seen in his years of traveling around the city. Girls like her were too rare, not like those with makeup and pretty clothes. Tang Yun's beauty came from the bottom of her heart, a natural beauty. There were only 3 of them in the entire Songshan Middle School. He couldn't even touch 2 of them. Anyone who touched them would die. Zhou Ruoming wasn't an idiot. Menyao's father was the chairman of Pengzhan Industries, a man who could shake Songshan with just a stomp of his foot. Only someone like Zhong Pinliang, with a strong family background, would dare go after her, but even he wouldn't dare do anything to her. As for Yushu, even Pinliang didn't dare touch that girl. Wu Xiaozan's painful lesson was still fresh in his mind. Tang Yun, on the other hand, wasn't as talented. Zhou Ruoming knew everything about her family background. Her parents were both laid-off workers, and her father was bedridden due to a work-related injury. Her mother worked at the food street behind the school. A family that couldn't even get their father's medical compensation, what could they possibly do? As far as Zhou Ruoming was concerned, he had Tang Yun under his thumb. Even if he forced himself on her, a family like Tang Yun's wouldn't be able to do anything about it. This was why Zhou Ruoming had pursued Tang Yun without a care in the world, almost pushing her to the brink of insanity. From Zhou Ruoming's perspective, Tang Yun would have been his woman already if it weren't for Lin Yi's interference. Now, Tang Yun had accepted Lin Yi's confession. The hero saving the damsel in distress was a cliché, but it was effective. He must have played the villain that day, giving Lin Yi a chance. Zhou Ruoming regretted it. If he'd known this would happen, he would have gotten his lackeys to play the villain and let them show off their skills. Sitting under the basketball hoop, Zhou Ruoming was sulking. His lackeys also knew that Zhou Ruoming was in a bad mood, so they didn't dare to speak. "Brother Ming, what's wrong? Why do you look so depressed?" Pinliang saw Zhou Ruoming's sad face as he sat under the basketball hoop. His face alternated between anger and regret, and he could guess why Zhou Ruoming was like this. Pinliang's sharp senses told him that this was a good chance to teach Lin Yi a lesson. "Oh, it's Liang Zi." Zhou Ruoming raised his eyelids and saw that it was Zhong Pinliang, but he didn't feel embarrassed at all. Zhong Pinliang wasn't much better off than him. He'd lost to Lin Yi as well. His old man's men were all in jail, and Zhou Ruoming and Zhong Pingliang were just the pot calling the kettle black. "Are you here to watch me make a fool of myself?" "Brother Ming, what are you talking about? I've always respected you, Brother Ming." Pinliang patted one of the lackeys beside Zhou Ruoming, and the lackey quickly moved aside, letting Pinliang sit beside Zhou Ruoming. Liang Zi, I've been slapped in the face this time. Zhou Ruoming sighed and said hatefully, everyone in the school knows that I'm chasing after Tang Yun, but that bastard Lin Yi beat me to it. I can't take this lying down. Ming bro, I think that you're too conservative in this matter. Qin Liang said with a pained expression. Tang Yun's family background isn't that big of a deal. There's a saying, the one who strikes first gains the advantage. Ming bro, if you force her, wouldn't Tang Yun be yours now? Right now, even if I want to force myself on you, I don't dare to. You know that Minyao's family is even more powerful than mine. Ah, you're right, Liang Zi. Don't even mention how much I regret it now. Zhou Ruoming's face darkened. If I knew this would happen, I would have forced myself on her. I'm a professional at this, I've done it before. That's right. Qin Liang said. How could I let that bastard Lin Yi beat me to it? But it's too late now, I regret it. Zhou Ruoming had been holding it in for a long time, but now that a young bully with a similar identity appeared, and the two of them were in the same boat, having a common enemy, Lin Yi, it was only natural that Zhou Ruoming would complain to him. Ming bro, I don't agree with what you said. Qin Liang suddenly changed the topic. As the saying goes, a good meal isn't too late. It's not too late for you to make your move now. No matter how fast Lin Yi is, he won't be able to take Tang Yun in 2.5 days. If you take her now, she'll be with you. Qin Liang didn't have much education, and he didn't know if he was using the right words. Fortunately, Zhou Ruoming was a fool. He didn't understand what a good meal isn't too late meant, but he felt that Qin Liang's words made sense. Zhou Ruoming slapped his thigh and shouted in surprise. That's right, why didn't I think of that? It's not too late for me to make my move now. Tang Yun will be mine, and Lin Yi won't be able to play anymore. Liang Zi, you've really woken me up. Ruoming matched Qin Liang's, Zhou line with his own in order to show off his culture level. Man, Ming bro, there's hope for your path of love, but I still need to work hard. Qin Liang was overjoyed when he saw that Zhou Ruoming had accepted his suggestion. Now that Tang Yun was fucked by Zhou Ruoming, Lin Yi would probably be very depressed, right? Ha ha ha. But on the surface, Qin Liang still acted sad and helpless. Liang Zi, I'll thank you heavily after this is done. Zhou Ruoming clenched his fist as if he had seen hope. But don't reject me when I ask you to give me some advice. Don't worry, it'll be fine. Qin Liang said happily. Why was she asking for his help? Alright, that was his strength. Qin Liang hummed a tune as he walked to the classroom. Zhou Ruoming was happy to play basketball with his lackeys now that he'd solved his problem. Qin Liang saw his lackey Zhang Naipeo running towards him like crazy before he reached the classroom door. It was as if he had seen his savior. Pow, what are you doing? You're running so fast, are you training for the sports day? Qin Liang was in a good mood today, so he joked with Naipeo. Liang bro. I'm begging you, save my dad, save my brother. Naipeo said as he knelt down in front of Qin Liang. Qin Liang froze at Naipeo's sudden action. Pow, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with your dad and brother? How can I save you? Can't you explain it more clearly? Qin Liang frowned. He didn't understand what Lin Yi was talking about. Chapter 184. Chapter 184, Zhang Naipeo's plea, Pow, get up first. What's up with you kneeling on the ground? Qin Liang didn't look like he was joking, but this wasn't the right place to be kneeling on the ground. Liang bro, please, promise me. I'll get up if you promise. Naipeo's only hope was Qin Liang right now. If Qin Liang was willing to help him, then his family would be safe. Alright, I promise you. Get up now. Qin Liang said as he pulled Naipeo up. Pow, if you have something to say, just say it. This is a school, what would people think of you kneeling on the ground? Liang bro. I'm sorry, I was too impulsive. Naipeo said, realizing that his actions weren't very appropriate. You can't do that even if you're impulsive. Pinliang said. Alright, let's talk about it first. Liang bro, my dad's doing business, and a competitor set him up. Naipeo explained. They're going to sue him for fraud, and he's going to jail, oh. Pinliang frowned, he knew about Naipeo's family, it wasn't too bad. His father was doing business outside, and his mother was a full-time housewife. How did this happen? But what does this have to do with your brother? Pinliang asked. They're forcing my dad to pay back the money, so my brother has to sell his kidney. Naipeo said. Your brother has to sell his kidney? Pinliang didn't understand. Why not you? I'd go if I could sell my kidneys, why would I ask my brother to do it? Naipeo said. I did some research, and they said that I'm a yin blood or something. I don't know much about it, but it's just that kidneys for people with my blood type aren't easy to find, and there aren't many people who need it. I can't sell it anytime soon. I see. Pinliang nodded. Then how do you want me to help you? Liang bro, can you lend my family some money to help us get through this? Naipeo said. Even if I have to work like a horse or cow, I'll repay your kindness for the rest of my life. How much? Pinliang wasn't much of a person, but Naipeo had been with him for a long time, and he'd always been his follower and vanguard. Pinliang couldn't just ignore him. 700,000. Naipeo said carefully. What? 700,000. So many. Pinliang paused. If it was 100,000 or 80,000, he could just gather some of his New Year's money, but 700,000 was out of his reach. That's right, brother Liang. If it wasn't for the huge amount, I wouldn't have come to beg you. Naipeo said with a bitter face, Liang bro, please help me, if you need me, just say the word. If you need a cow, I'll be a cow, if you need a horse, I'll be a horse. Brother Liang, I won't even blink if you ask me to commit suicide. Hey, Naipeo, don't worry. This is a serious matter, and I don't have that much money. You know that. Pinliang said. I can only give my dad a call. You go back to class first, I'll think about how I'm going to tell him. Liang bro, you have to help me. Naipeo thought that Pinliang was just brushing him off, that he didn't want to help. Listen to me, Naipeo. You've been with me for 3 years, I'll do my best for you. Don't think too much, I'm just thinking about how I'm going to tell my dad. Pinliang patted Naipeo's shoulder. Alright, Liang bro, I'll go back first. You have to help me. Naipeo nodded. Pinliang went back to class, thinking about Naipeo's situation. Logically speaking, 700,000 was a small amount for his family, but it was enough to buy a luxury car. Pinliang had to think about it carefully. Naipeo had been with him for 3 years, he'd been his follower for 3 years, he'd been at his beck and call every day, and he'd never complained. This touched Pinliang a little. But, being touched was one thing. What Pinliang cared more about was the benefits this 700,000 would bring him. With this 700,000, Pinliang believed that Naipeo would owe him a huge favor, a huge one at that. If he ever needed Naipeo's help in the future, with his personality, there was no way he wouldn't push it away, but was 700,000 really worth it? Pinliang weighed the pros and cons in his mind. Judging from Naipeo's actions of sacrificing himself to save his brother, the kid had some sense of loyalty. But loyalty? Did he really need it from Naipeo? Pinliang decided that he'd call his father and ask for his opinion. With that in mind, Naipeo left the classroom and went to the washroom. Seeing that there was no one there, he took out his phone and called his father, Zhong Fabai. Pinliang. Fabai's heart sank when he got his son's call. It had been a very eventful time. He'd just taken care of Heibao's business, and he couldn't let anything go wrong. Under normal circumstances, Pin Liang wouldn't call him on his own. If he did, then something big must have happened. Lin Yi quickly asked, "What happened?" "Dad, I have something to discuss with you," Pin Liang said. "Oh. What is it?" Fabai let out a breath of relief when he heard that Pin Liang was just looking for him. As long as it wasn't a big problem. "It's like this, Zhang Naipeo from our class, you remember him, right?" Pin Liang asked. "Zhang Naipeo. Oh, I know, your follower. What happened to him?" Fabai knew of Naipeo. The kid often came to play with someone called Gao Xiaofu. "It's like this, Zhang Naipeo's family is in some trouble. His father got screwed over in a business deal, and now he's in a huge debt. The other party wants him to pay up, and if he doesn't, they'll sue him." Pin Liang kept the story short. "Zhang Naipeo's begging me now, he wants me to lend him some money." "Oh, that's what happened." Fabai got the gist of it. It was actually very simple. His son's classmate's family was in trouble, and he wanted to borrow money from his son. "Son, what do you think?" "Dad. Zhang Naipeo's my buddy, he's been with me for so long, always at my beck and call. It's only right that I lend him money when he's in trouble," Pin Liang said. "But the amount he's asking for is a little too big." "How much?" Fabai asked. Chapter 185. Chapter 185, Buying People's Hearts, 700,000. For an ordinary family, this is a huge sum of money. Fabai nodded, but it wasn't much to him. "Then what do you think?" "I'm thinking, is it worth it to give this money away?" Pin Liang said. "Son, it's important to be loyal when you're in society," Fabai said with a smile. "Just like this Zhang Naipeo, he's your underling, and you're his boss. You can't just leave him be if something happens to him. But the thing is, how's this underling's character? Would he go through fire and water for you? If you ever need his help in the future, would he step up?" "Dad, I can promise that. Zhang Naipeo may be a bit of an idiot, but he's definitely a loyal man. I'll help him out this time, and if I ever need his help in the future, I'll let him die for me," Pin Liang said. "Ah, isn't that it?" Fabai smiled. "When I was young, I helped an underling as well. I didn't have much use for him back then, but many years later, when my shoddy construction got into trouble, this underling stood up and took the blame for me. So, Pin Liang, you need to be accurate in your judgment of people. If this Zhang Naipeo is really useful, then I'll give him this money." Fabai smiled. "That's why, Pin Liang, you need to be accurate in choosing people. If this Zhang Naipeo is really useful, then I'll give him this money. Dad, I'm not involved in any projects. I don't need someone to take the blame for me." Pin Liang still didn't want to. It was 700,000. "Why don't you have it? I've taken care of Heibao for you, but if he bites you out, you'll be in jail too. With this Zhang Naipeo, you can just push the blame onto him, say that he's the mastermind, and that you were just tricked into participating. That'll be fine, right?" Fabai said. "Of course, taking the blame is just one fact. There are some dangerous things, like killing someone you can't do it yourself. So, if there's nothing wrong with this guy, 700,000 is worth it." "I understand, Dad. I'll talk to him later." Pin Liang agreed with his father's words. If he were to get into trouble in the future, or if there was something he couldn't handle himself, he could always ask Naipeo to do it for him. It'd be like leaving something up his sleeve. "Go, Pin Liang, you've grown up. You need to train your own men in confidence." Zhong Fabai said, "This will be very useful for you when you enter society in the future." Pin Liang, on the other hand, nodded repeatedly. After hanging up, Pin Liang dialed up Naipeo's number. Naipeo didn't dare answer the phone in the classroom, but seeing that it was Pin Liang, he quickly got up and ran out of the classroom. He looked around and saw Pin Liang waving at him from the bathroom door. He quickly ran over. "Liang bro, you're looking for me, pal, I've told my dad about you." Pin Liang paused to keep Lin Yi in suspense. "Brother Liang, how is it? What did Uncle Zhong think?" Naipeo's heart skipped a beat, his face changing color as he looked at Pin Liang anxiously, waiting for the final result. "My dad said that you're my bro, so he'll give me the money." Pin Liang patted Naipeo's shoulder. "Come with me to my dad's company after school." "Really? Liang bro?" Naipeo looked at Pin Liang in disbelief. "Liang bro, you're really willing to lend me 700,000? I'm not lending it to you, I'm giving it to you." Pin Liang knew that Naipeo wouldn't be able to pay it back, and it wasn't like his family was lacking that much anymore, he might as well use the money to buy Naipeo's heart. "You're my follower, how can I not help you when you're in trouble? Liang bro. You're really my boss." Naipeo couldn't be any more emotional after hearing Pin Liang's words. He knelt on the ground with a thud. "Liang bro, I, Zhang Naipeo, am not someone who doesn't know how to repay favors. Don't worry, if your Liang bro tells me to hang myself, I won't jump into the water. If you tell me to go east, I'll cut my head off and throw it east, I'll never go west." "Ha!" Pin Liang smiled as he helped Naipeo up. "It's still too early to talk about that, I know what kind of person you are, Zhang Naipeo, but we'll talk about this later. Liang bro, I swear, if you don't believe me, I'll kill myself right now." Naipeo was starting to panic. "That's not what I meant." "Alright, Naipeo, I know what you're thinking, alright? Let's go back to the classroom if I need your help in the future, just don't reject me." Pin Liang nodded satisfied, it seemed like Naipeo had bought him over, and now he had a backup plan. Kong Xiaobo hadn't slept at all last night, thinking about going to Tang Yin's house for barbecue. As the saying went, which girl didn't want to fall in love? Which boy didn't want to? This was an era full of sunshine, youthfulness, and hope for the future. Kong Xiaobo hoped that he could meet a beautiful girl, and start a beautiful relationship with her. He knew that Tang Yin wouldn't like him, but Kong Xiaobo was still very excited. Going to the school beauty's house for a meal. Even if nothing happened, it was still something to be proud of. "Boss, are we going on Saturday or Sunday?" Kong Xiaobo couldn't wait. "I don't know." Lin Yi shrugged. "Why are you so excited?" "Heh. The school beauty's treating us, you're the only one who doesn't care." Kong Xiaobo said. "So many boys want to get close to the school beauty, but they can't. Aren't you excited to have a chance to be alone with the school beauty?" Lin Yi was speechless. Excited my ass, there were 2 school beauties at home. But he couldn't say that to Kong Xiaobo. "I'm just a little excited, but she seems to hate me." "Boss, you should be content. If it was someone else, they wouldn't be able to hate her even if they wanted to. She doesn't talk much with people." "Ah. I'll go ask her during lunch break then." Lin Yi was thinking about buying the concert disc for Meng Yao and Yushu. He was worried that no one would accompany him, so he dragged Kong Xiaobo along. Okay. Kong Xiaobo nodded. "Let's go together, and get some barbecue on the way." "Forget about barbecue, Tang Yin's mom won't charge us if we go now." Lin Yi said. "You can't let her spend money twice, can you?" Chapter 186. The stand sold out. "So are you eating at Tang Yin's house this weekend or at noon?" "One of the two." Lin Yi asked. "Let's go this weekend then." Kong Xiaobo evidently didn't want to miss out on a good opportunity like this. There were exams almost every day in the 12th years. Half of the morning class was spent on exams. Lin Yi had been on a mission back then, but he'd completely assimilated into life now. He'd assimilated into this school, this class. Most importantly, his age. Lin Yi felt like he'd gotten a lot younger in this time. He was starting to see things from the perspective of a person his age should be. He'd started to like chatting with his new friends, joking around with pretty girls. He'd fallen in love with this school, this class. He'd fallen in love with Tang Yin, this arrogant yet cute girl. How long would this last? Perhaps a few days, perhaps a few months. He'd go back to his old life, and all of this would no longer belong to him. He'd truly enjoyed the beauty of life, and Lin Yi was tired of his old life. There was no excitement to speak of other than the thrill of killing, and Lin Yi was numb to his enemies. It was time to talk to his old man. Perhaps this was the life he'd been looking forward to. Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo left class at noon. There was a test in the last class, and the class ended a little later than the other classes. Most of the students had already left the school building. Meng Yao and Yushu went to the cafeteria as usual, eating at the small restaurant on the second floor. They didn't care how many people there were on the first floor. They didn't need to wait in line to order. Food Street was always bustling at noon. The 12th graders, on the other hand, didn't come here often due to their tight schedule. The first and second graders, however, had already crowded the place. The food here wasn't exactly clean, nor was it particularly delicious, but it was much better and cheaper than the food in the cafeteria. Mrs. Tang's barbecue stand was unusually popular today, and there were many students crowding around it. That was how news in school spread like wild, good or bad. For example, Lin Yi's love letter to Tang Yin had spread like wildfire in the 12th grade before class even started. Mrs. Tang's barbecue stall was the same as well. The enticing aroma, coupled with the endless praises from the students who'd tasted it, had the entire crowd surrounding the stall. That was how things were in a lot of situations. The more people there were, the more they wanted to join the crowd. Mrs. Tang was excited, but at the same time, she was overwhelmed with work. It looked like the ingredients she had prepared today wouldn't even be enough for lunch. It looked like she had to make a trip home in the afternoon to prepare more. Still going? Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he looked at Xiaobo. There's a little too many people here, asking when he's going to her house this weekend in front of all these people. Isn't that just asking for trouble? Do you think Tang Yin can answer? Kong Xiaobo thought about it and agreed. Tang Yin was afraid of people saying that she had a relationship with Lin Yi. How could Tang Yin answer if he asked her when he was going to her Tang family dinner? If things got out of hand, the treat for the weekend might be cancelled. Then, should we wait? Kong Xiaobo asked hesitantly. Come with me to the bookstore and buy some stuff. Lin Yi nodded. We'll come back in a bit. Kong Xiaobo didn't know what Lin Yi wanted to buy, but he admired Lin Yi from the bottom of his heart. Whatever Lin Yi said, he agreed without hesitation. In the bookstore, Lin Yi bought a CD of Su Shihan's concert. Kong Xiaobo was surprised. Boss, you like Su Shihan too? Oh. Ha. Lin Yi didn't know how to answer the question. A little. Kong Xiaobo paused. A little? Why did he come all the way here to buy the original? I bought it for a friend. That was the only explanation he could come up with. Luckily, Kong Xiaobo didn't ask more and changed the topic to Su Shihan. Boss, I like Su Shihan too. I heard that she's a rare pure girl in the entertainment industry. Pure girl. Lin Yi curled his lips. How many pure girls were proven to be lustful? Superficial things like that couldn't be trusted. The two of them ate beef noodles downstairs in the bookstore before returning to school. When they arrived at the food street, they found out that Mrs. Tang's stall was gone. But the other stalls were still there. It didn't seem like the law enforcement came to chase them away. Plus, This food street was approved by the street administration. Under normal circumstances, no one would come and chase them away. Lin Yi was puzzled. Xiaobo, was it that place? Lin Yi pointed at the place where Mrs. Tang's stall was. Yeah, but where did it go? Boss, wait, I'll ask someone. Kong Xiaobo said and ran to a barbecue stall at the front of the food street. Uncle, can I ask, where did the Tang barbecue stall go? Wasn't it there just now? The owner of the barbecue stall had a look of hatred on his face. It's sold out. I'm closing. You can buy it from me. Then forget it. Your place doesn't taste good. Kong Xiaobo said and left. Fuck. The barbecue stall owner cursed. He was about to explode in anger. Today, almost all of the customers had been snatched away by Tang Ji Barbecue. His first barbecue stall on the food street had actually sold less than 2/3 of the usual. This made him very angry. He didn't care when Tang Barbecue wasn't that popular. But now he was jealous. He had been selling barbecue on the food street for years. He was one of the veterans here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to get the front seat. Yet, he was beaten by a newcomer like Mrs. Tang. This made Zhang Biaoqiao furious. Seeing another student come to Tang Barbecue and say that his barbecue wasn't good, Zhang Biaoqiao's face darkened. It was only the first day. There were still many students who didn't know about it. How would he have any business in a few days? Zhang Biaoqiao felt that he had to do something. Before today, their barbecue was still the best seller on this street. But today, Mrs. Tang had gotten her hands on a new recipe that changed the situation in an instant. Chapter 187. Chapter 187, Tang Yun's best friend Lin Yi wasn't in a rush to give the concert disc to Meng Yao when he got back to the classroom. They couldn't watch it now anyway, so he decided to wait until he got home. Yushu, however, sent him a text asking if he bought the disc. Lin Yi replied that he did. Yushu turned around and winked at him. Tang Yun and Lu Xinwen accompanied Mrs. Tang as they moved the stall to a warehouse nearby. Most of the vendors on the street stored their stalls in this warehouse every day, paying 300 kuai a month for storage. Although it wasn't cheap, it was much less troublesome than pushing things around every day. Tang Yun was happy to see the excitement on her mother's face, but at the same time, she couldn't help but worry. He didn't expect that just changing a formula would be so popular. Originally, the ingredients that he had prepared were not likely to be sold out even at night. But today, before noon, they were all sold out, and there were still people coming to him. This was only the first day. This recipe wasn't much to Lin Yi, but her family still owed him a favor. Tang Yun couldn't deny that. Heh, Yun, I didn't think that your Lin Yi would have some skills. This recipe is selling like hotcakes. Lu Xinwen said jokingly after sending Mrs. Tang off on the bus with Tang Yun. She wanted to test Tang Yun on purpose. She hadn't had the chance to ask Tang Yun about what she saw yesterday morning. She and Tang Yun were best friends, but it was normal for them to not see each other for a day. Mrs. Tang and Tang Yun were too busy today, so Tang Yun called Xinwen over to help. Ah! Tang Yun blushed at Xinwen's words. What do you mean, my Lin Yi? I have nothing to do with him, Wen, don't say things like that. Is that so? Lu Xinwen looked at Tang Yun meaningfully. Yun, are we best friends or not? Yeah. Wen, why are you asking this all of a sudden? Tang Yun's heart tightened subconsciously. Did Xinwen notice something? However, there shouldn't be anything between him and Lin Yi, right? Since we're best friends, why are you still hiding it from me? Xinwen poked Tang Yun's forehead. Yun, have you fallen? Will you tell me the truth? Wen, what do you mean? Tang Yun was getting more and more nervous. What are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Pretend? Keep pretending. Xinwen looked at Tang Yun disappointedly. Yun Yun, I always thought that you and I could talk about anything. But I'm so disappointed. Wen, what are you talking about? I really don't know what's going on. Tang Yun was also anxious. If you have something to say, just say it. Yun, why did you come to school yesterday morning? Xinwen sighed as she stared into Tang Yun's eyes. Tang Yin lowered her head guiltily, not daring to look at Xinwen. Xinwen knew that she'd taken Lin Yi's car yesterday. But how did she know? She'd looked around when she got out of the car to make sure that there was no one around before running away. Yun, why aren't you talking? Xinwen asked aggressively. I took Lin Yi's car. Tang Yin said, but Wen, listen to me. It's not what you think. Oh. Then tell me, what's going on? Xinwen let out a breath of relief when Tang Yun admitted it. Tang Yun didn't hide it from her after all. Yesterday, Li Erlin was bothering me at the bus stop. Lin Yi happened to pass by here, so he got out of his car and chased Li Erlin away. Then I took his car to school. Tang Yun explained carefully. Wen, it's actually that simple. There's nothing going on between us. Xinwen also bumped into Li Erlin yesterday, so she started to believe Tang Yun's words. Then why did you take his car? I was panicking and didn't know what to do, so Lin Yi pushed me into his car. Tang Yin explained, feeling wronged. I only realized that it was too late when he started driving. Is that so? You really didn't fall for him? Xinwen let out a breath of relief. I didn't. Tang Yin shook her head after some hesitation. Why would she fall for Lin Yi? That was impossible. That's good. Xinwen nodded. Right, I went to Xiaofen's house yesterday, and her emotions weren't stable. Her mom said that she kept calling out that person's name these past 2 days, and that she was even hallucinating. Tang Yin sighed after hearing Xinwen's words. She had been helping her mom with the barbecue stall every day, so she didn't have time to visit Xiaofen at night. She could only ask Xinwen to go over, but it seemed like something serious had happened to Xiaofen. Tang Yin was worried, but there was nothing she could do. I'll go over tonight. I suggest that Aunt Shui take Xiaofen to the psychiatry department at the hospital. Xinwen said. But Aunt Shui's family situation is pretty much the same as ours, and she spent quite a lot of money on Xiaofen's medical bills. Where would she find the money to go to the psychiatry department? That person didn't come back to visit Xiaofen. Tang Yin was a little indignant. Xiaofen wouldn't have ended up like this if it wasn't for that person. Even if Xiaofen wasn't a virgin anymore, with her looks, it wouldn't be hard for her to find a better boyfriend. No, hoping that bastard Kong Mingming would come back to visit Xiaofen. Unless the sun rises from the west. Lu Xinwen sneered, if it wasn't for Xiaofen stopping me, I would have castrated that bastard Kong Xiaoming. Tang Yin blushed. Her best friend's words were really powerful. She didn't know what to say. Tang Yin was too embarrassed to say something like that. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go back and study. Xinwen threw away the unhappiness in her mind and walked back to school with Tang Yin. He had to go with Kong Xiaobo to ask Tang Yin about going to her house during the weekend, so Lin Yi couldn't go back with Meng Yao and Yushu. He sent them a text to tell them that he had something to do with Kong Xiaobo after school. Meng Yao didn't mind and replied with a "got it" before leaving with Yushu. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was slowly packing his things. He only quickened his movements after Meng Yao and Yushu left. Chapter 188. Bullying people, that won't happen. Lin Yi wasn't in a rush. They were selling like hotcakes at noon, so they'd definitely prepare more for the night. How could they sell out so quickly? That's true. Kong Xiaobo calmed down after listening to Lin Yi's analysis. The main reason Lin Yi didn't want Meng Yao and Yushu to see him looking for Tang Yun. Otherwise, the miss of the Chu family might throw a tantrum again. Lin Yi's attitude was that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble until the two of them left. Lin Yi glanced at the corner of the street not too far away after leaving the school gates. He only calmed down when he didn't see Faubert's Bentley, and walked towards the food street with Kong Xiaobo. Boss, it can't be that popular, right? Why are there so many people? Kong Xiaobo pointed at the food street, surprised. Even the people from the other stalls are buying Tangin's barbecue? Lin Yi frowned. There were a lot of stalls surrounding Tangin's barbecue stall. Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't believe that they were buying Tangin's barbecue. Tang Yi might be in trouble, let's go check it out. Lin Yi said as he quickened his steps. As expected, a man's loud voice could be heard as they got closer. I say, boss lady, isn't that a little too much? We're all from the same street, and you're stealing our business like that. The speaker was naturally Zhang Biaojian. He'd been pissed off that Tangin's barbecue was more popular than his own, and he wasn't willing to lose his business just like that. He'd contacted a couple of other barbecue vendors, planning to give Mrs. Tang a hard time at night. As far as Zhang Biaojian, Mrs. Tang was no different from a widowed mother, a bedridden man was no different from a cripple. Her family was easy to bully. If he threatened her, she would definitely give in. Big bro, let's talk this out. It's not like we're trying to steal your business. Mrs. Tang was a little scared when she saw so many people helping Zhang Biaoqiao. None of the onlooking vendors said they were supporting Zhang Biaoqiao, but none of them spoke up for her either. You didn't steal my business. If you set up a stall here at noon, all the students will go to your stall to buy things. Who are we going to sell to? Another old woman from the barbecue stall spoke up. You call this not stealing business? Are you waiting for us to starve to death before you consider that you didn't steal our business? That's right. You sold more than all of us combined. Are you going to let us live? Another thin and tall man also began to speak. Mrs. Tang didn't expect that she would offend so many people while her business was doing well. She didn't know what to do. My mother is doing business properly. How is this stealing your business? Tang Yin was a little pissed off as she stood up for her mother. Our food tastes good, and the customers are willing to buy from us. How is that our fault? If you want your business to be good, then you can improve the recipe. Well said, little girl. Zhang Biaoqiao laughed. We want to improve the recipe as well. Since you've said it, then I won't hold back. Hand over the recipe, and we'll all learn from it. Then we'll call it even. The recipe belongs to us. Why should we give it to you? Tang Yin wasn't expecting Zhang Biaoqiao to be this unreasonable. What advantage would they have if they gave him the recipe? Why should we? Because you stole our business. We want the recipe, and that's what the people want. Isn't that right, brothers and sisters? Zhang Biaoqiao said to the people beside him. Yeah. Why don't you give us the recipe? We can all earn money together. It's not good to keep everything to yourself. The old barbecue woman agreed. It's fine if you don't give us the recipe. You can change it back tomorrow, and we'll be the same. The tall and skinny man said darkly. What if we don't give you the recipe, and we don't change it? Tang Yin was on the verge of crying. What kind of bully was this? A bunch of people bullying her and her mother. Was there no law? Don't give it. You won't change it. Zhang Biaoqiao laughed coldly. That's not up to you. I don't think you can come to this food street tomorrow. Tang Yin's eyes were red. She was on the verge of tearing up. How could they bully her like that? Business was good, so they couldn't come here. Yin. Mrs. Tang was afraid that Tang Yin would do something irrational. She hugged Tang Yin and pointed at Zhang Biaoqiao with a trembling finger. You. Are you bullying us because we don't have a man? What's so great about bullying us? They wouldn't be this arrogant if their lover wasn't bedridden, right? Don't say it like that. This is what the people want, Zhang Biaoqiao said. He was bullying Tang Yin because she didn't have a man in her family. He knew about Tang Yin's family a long time ago. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so arrogant today. Mrs. Tang hugged Tang Yin, shaking with anger. Why was it so hard to do business? Bullying them because they saw that their family was making money? Wasn't this too much? Tang Yin was annoyed that she wasn't a boy. Even if she was, they wouldn't be so reckless, would they? Tang Yin looked at the crowd of people standing around, not bothering to meddle in their business. Tang Yin felt despair. Her family had just gotten better, and they had new hope. Was it going back to how it used to be? Xiang my ass. Lin Yi pushed through the crowd and rushed in. Wasn't this Zhang Biaoqiao a bit too much? Bullying Tang Yin and her mother. What was he thinking? Didn't he know that he was protecting the mother and daughter? The peddler that Lin Yi pushed away was about to yell at him, but quickly shut his mouth when he saw Lin Yi's face. This was the new young thug from First Middle. Even someone as powerful as Ruoming couldn't make a sound after getting slapped in the face by him. Who would want to mess with him? Lin Yi grabbed Zhang Biaoqiao by the collar and lifted him up. You're the leader, aren't you? Who the fuck? Zhang Biaoqiao wanted to yell at the person who grabbed his clothes, but shivered when he saw Lin Yi's face. He had quite an impression of Lin Yi. He'd slapped Zhou Ruoming until he didn't even dare let out a fart. Someone like that was truly ruthless. Zhang Biaoqiao used to sell seafood, but Zhou Ruoming got a stomachache and came to smash his stall the next day, beating him up so badly that he couldn't get out of bed for a couple of days. He didn't dare sell seafood anymore after he recovered, switching to selling barbecue. But he was still very afraid of Zhou Ruoming. It wasn't a secret that Zhou Ruoming had a big brother who was the head of the gangsters in the north of the city. Zhang Biaoqiao didn't dare do anything after finding out. It was just a game for him to beat him up. Chapter 189. Smashing them, little brother. You. What's the matter? Zhang Biaoqiao stuttered. He was no longer as domineering as before, and his expression was a little ugly. The barbecue woman and the tall skinny man obviously knew who Lin Yi was, the one who'd slapped Zhou Ruoming in the face last week at the food street. Who didn't know him? Who didn't know of such an all-powerful character? And that follower of his. Biaoqiao's eyes narrowed as he looked at Kong Xiaobo, remembering the student he'd talked to at lunch. Wasn't that Kong Xiaobo? He was Lin Yi's follower. Then they in Tang Barbecue. Biaoqiao suddenly remembered a tragic reality. The reason why Lin Yi had slapped Zhou Ruoming last time was all because of Tang Yin. And who was Tang Yin? She was the daughter of the owner of Tang Barbecue. Was Lin Yi here to stand up for them this time? Biaoqiao froze at the thought of that possibility, his face draining of blood. How could he have overlooked something so important? He'd thought that Tang Barbecue didn't have a man anymore, and that he could bully them all he wanted, but the man from their house was a fierce one. You want the recipe, right? Lin Yi felt pity for these small merchants who worked so hard to earn money every day, but that wasn't a reason for them to bully people. Tang Yin's mother earned her money with her own hands, without stealing or robbing. These people, on the other hand, were making trouble for Mrs. Tang when they saw her making money, demanding the recipe from her. It was a behavior that infuriated Lin Yi. Ah. No. I don't want it. I'm just joking. Biaoqiao didn't dare ask for it anymore. As far as he was concerned, rich young masters like these would be beating him up for nothing, let alone Zhou Ruoming, who had a gangster brother. How could he be more powerful than Zhou Ruoming? I gave you the recipe. If you want it, I can give you one. Lin Yi let go of Zhang Biaoqiao. Zhang Biaoqiao lost his balance and fell to the ground. No, I really don't want to. If Zhang Biaoqiao was still thinking about the formula, his brain would be punctured. No, what are you doing? Are you guys just watching the show? Lin Yi smiled coldly as he glanced at the vendors who had been watching the show. Towards these people, Lin Yi didn't have too much resentment. Zhang Biaoqiang was the bold man here, and they couldn't possibly not support Zhang Biaoqiang and speak up for Tang Yin's family. So Lin Yi didn't think about looking for trouble with them, but today was enough to scare them. Otherwise, they would think that Tang Yin's family had no one and could bully them as they pleased. These peddlers were frightened by Lin Yi's gaze. They quickly dispersed and went about their own business. This was not a good show. If they didn't handle it well, they would invite trouble for themselves. You two, don't leave. Lin Yi pointed at the old barbecue woman and the skinny man who were about to leave with the crowd. No. It's not our fault, it's Zhang Biaoqiao's idea. The old barbecue woman had already extinguished her anger. She was obviously someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Seeing that Lin Yi was ruthless, she immediately became careful. Yes, it's Zhang Biaoqiao's idea. We were just called here by him. The skinny man said. Do what he tells you to do. So you'll do whatever I tell you to do? Lin Yi asked back. I. The old barbecue woman didn't know what Lin Yi meant, but she still followed along. Bro, what do you want us to do? You two don't sell barbecue tomorrow. Change your job. No problem, right? Lin Yi rolled his eyes and changed their job. I. The old barbecue woman and the skinny man looked at each other. They wanted to object, but they didn't dare to. Who knew if Lin Yi would suddenly turn against them? Xiaobo. After Lin Yi said that, he ignored the two accomplices and called out to Kong Xiaobo. Boss, I'm here. You called me? Kong Xiaobo ran over excitedly. Awesome, it's really awesome. Although Kong Xiaobo was just a follower, he followed behind Lin Yi and watched the whole process. It made his blood boil. You go and smash his stall. Lin Yi pointed at Zhang Biaoqiao and said to Kong Xiaobo. Okay. Kong Xiaobo nodded and walked to Zhang Biaoqiao's stall. Under everyone's gaze, he kicked Zhang Biaoqiao's stall and flipped it over. Charcoal, skewers, money boxes, and everything else were scattered all over the ground. Kong Xiaobo was still not satisfied. He stepped on the barbecue rack again and again until it was deformed. It was basically impossible to use it again. Zhang Biaoqiao's heart was bleeding, but he didn't dare to say no. Smashing a stall was fine, but he didn't want to smash himself again. Last time, Zhou Ruoming could beat him up so badly that he couldn't get out of bed for a few days. This Lin Yi. Zhang Biaoqiao broke into a cold sweat just thinking about it. All right. Lin Yi waved at Kong Xiaobo, indicating that he could come back. Then Lin Yi turned to Zhang Biaoqiao and said, this time it's smashing a stall, next time it'll be smashing people. This place of yours is pretty good. You don't mind if I give it to Tang Ji tomorrow, right? I don't. Zhang Biaoqiao could only nod. What else could he say? The other party had already made it very clear that this time it was smashing a stall, next time it would be smashing people. If he said no, the other party would probably start smashing people until he agreed. Since you're quite obedient, I'll give you the spot at Tang Ji. Sell something else tomorrow. Lin Yi changed Zhang Biaoqiao's line of work. Is that okay with you? Okay. I'll change. I'll definitely change. Zhang Biaoqiao nodded. The barbecue rack was smashed, and he couldn't do it even if he wanted to. It wasn't a bad thing to change his line of work. Even if Lin Yi asked him to sell barbecue now, he wouldn't dare. What if he stole customers from Tang Ji and Lin Yi came back to smash his stall? Who could stand that? Xiaobo, when you're free tomorrow, come and see if they've changed their line of work. If they haven't, just smash it, Lin Yi ordered Kong Xiaobo. No problem, boss. Leave it to me. I'm good at this. Kong Xiaobo nodded and looked at the barbecue lady and the tall, thin man with a smile. The last bit of hope for these two had been shattered. If they didn't want to be smashed tomorrow, they'd better change their line of work. The two of them were a little regretful that they'd listened to Zhang Biaoqiao's lies, saying that they would split the recipe evenly among the three of them. Now that even their line of work had been changed, what was the point of having the recipe? Of course, Lin Yi wasn't really going to let Kong Xiaobo patrol. He was just trying to scare them. He didn't have that much time. Lin Yi didn't sympathize with Zhang Biaoqiao at all. He'd reaped what he sowed. Chapter 190. The mind of a girl with Lin Yi's skills, bullying these vendors was a bit of an overreaction. But Biaogan had crossed Lin Yi's bottom line. Lin Yi wasn't too sure about Tang Yin's family's situation, but they definitely weren't rich. Tang Yin's father wasn't here, however, and that gave Lin Yi a few guesses. Biaogan was obviously bullying people. If that was the case, then Lin Yi had no choice but to bully him a little, to let him know that bullying the weak wasn't as easy as it seemed. What are you still sitting here for? Waiting for me to treat you to dinner? Lin Yi asked, looking at Biaogan on the ground. Biaogan squeezed out a smile as he climbed up from the ground. Of course not, of course not. I'll go now, I'll go now. With that, Biaogan sprinted away, not daring to keep his stall anymore as he picked up the money box and left the food street. As for the awe-inspiring and domineering barbecue woman and the feminine, tall and thin man, they were also quietly packing up their stalls. Tomorrow, they would be changing professions. Auntie, are you all right? Lin Yi asked as he walked over to Mrs. Tang, who didn't know what to do. Mrs. Tang couldn't react to the sudden turn of events. I'm fine. Mrs. Tang said, recovering from her shock. Biaogan's overbearing face was still fresh in her mind, and now he was running away with his tail between his legs. It was all because of this kid in front of her. So what if Biaogan was overbearing? There was someone even more overbearing than him. Tang Yin lowered her head, her emotions complicated. She didn't know what to say. As a top student, she didn't approve of Lin Yi's way of handling things, but she had to admit that Lin Yi's way of handling things was the most appropriate. Biaogan wouldn't dare bully her family anymore, but why would Lin Yi do this? Why would he help her family? Tang Yun knew very well that Lin Yi was trying to get on her good side and pursue her, using this method to move her heart. Although it was a cliché method, Tang Yun had to admit that it was effective. At least, in her eyes, Lin Yi wasn't that despicable anymore. Even if he was despicable, it was towards those who were even more despicable. He just barged into her life like that. Tang Yin wanted to get rid of Lin Yi, but she couldn't. How am I going to face Lin Yi in the future? Continue to ridicule him? Tang Yin knew that she couldn't do it. She wasn't a heartless person, and Lin Yi had done so much. No matter what it was for, he had helped her and her family, so Tang Yun could only choose to escape. Lin Yi's identity made her worry. Thinking of Xiaofan's painful lesson, Tang Yun's heart once again closed up. Lin Yi looked at the silent Tang Yun and didn't mind. Auntie, I just came over after school to ask when we're going there this weekend. Tang Yun didn't say it clearly before, so I wanted to confirm it. Saturday morning, come whenever you're free. Our house is at the third door of the slums, Grass Alley. Mrs. Tang recovered from her shock, but her face was full of gratitude. Lin Yi, thank you so much for today. If you didn't come, we wouldn't know what to do. We'd be bullied. Haha, it won't happen again. Lin Yi smiled. Auntie, I'll be leaving with Xiaobo first. See you on Saturday. No, sit here, I'll cook something for you guys. Mrs. Tang naturally wouldn't let Lin Yi leave just like that. She had to thank him, no matter what. The more Mrs. Tang looked at Lin Yi, the more she liked himself. This young man had the arrogance of a rich young master, but he was reasonable. He was scary when he was domineering, but he was usually very easygoing with people he was familiar with. Not today, it's getting late. Let's go on Saturday, we'll be there on time. Lin Yi's phone vibrated. It was probably a message from Meng Yao or Yushu, so Lin Yi had to get back as soon as possible. Alright then. Mrs. Tang let go of Lin Yi after seeing how insistent Lin Yi was. Go send your classmate off. Okay. Tang Yun nodded unwillingly, but didn't refuse this time. She lowered her head and walked in front of Lin Yi without a word. Ah. Lin Yi smiled faintly and turned to leave with Kong Xiaobo. Tang Yun followed behind them, not knowing what she was thinking. Alright, you don't have to send me off if you don't want to. You can go back. Lin Yi looked at Tang Yun, amused. I didn't. Tang Yun humphed. Today. Thank you, I saw it on the way, that's all. If it were someone else, I'd probably care too. Lin Yi said, using the word maybe. In truth, Lin Yi really wouldn't care if it were someone else. If he cared about everything, then there was no need for him to stay here anymore. He might as well become an Ultraman or a Spider-Man. Tang Yun, of course, didn't believe that Lin Yi said it was on the way. If it wasn't for her, why would a young master like him care about something like this? But the more she owed Lin Yi, the more uneasy she felt. Do you really want to be friends with me? Tang Yun suddenly raised her head to look at Lin Yi. Ah. Tang Yun's reaction surprised Lin Yi. He was surprised at Tang Yun's sudden question. In fact, it took a lot of courage for Tang Yun to ask this question. Lin Yi had interfered in her family's life. It was impossible for Tang Yun not to have any thoughts about it. She wanted to confirm what Lin Yi's goal was. However, when Tang Yun asked this question, although it looked like she was in the right, she was actually very guilty. A girl asking this kind of question made Tang Yun's face burn. Fortunately, it was night time, and Lin Yi shouldn't be able to see it. Tang Yun was nervous, so when Lin Yi said, ah, Tang Yun took it as an acknowledgement of her question. Do your parents know? Will they agree? Tang Yun didn't wait for Lin Yi to answer and continued to ask. To be honest, Tang Yun was also nervous. Tang Yun saw what Lin Yi did for her family. She didn't know how she felt about Lin Yi. She hated him, but there was also a special feeling, my parents. Lin Yi paused again. Who were his parents? He didn't know either. Old Lin said he was an orphan. Tang Yun took Lin Yi's days as hesitation. Tang Yun's fragile heart tightened, and the budding feelings disappeared in an instant. Chapter 191. More positive. Tang Yin turned around and ran back to her mother, disappearing into the night in the blink of an eye. Lin Yi came back to his senses and looked at Lin Yi, who was already far away. He sighed softly. Did he fall in love with this girl? Lin Yi didn't know if he'd matured, or if he'd become impulsive. He wouldn't have thought like this if it were a year ago. Had the comfort of his life changed him? It seemed like he'd have to talk to old man Lin about it. Boss, what's wrong with you? Kong Xiaobo, who'd been standing on the sidelines, couldn't hold it in anymore. What are you spacing out for? Tang Yin asked you if you wanted to be friends with her, and you just spaced out. Kong Xiaobo had a look of exasperation on his face, a typical eunuch panicking even though the emperor wasn't panicking. She just wanted to confirm my feelings, nothing else. Lin Yi shook his head. Let's go, stop looking. Boss, I really don't know what to say. It was such a good opportunity, and you didn't take it. Kong Xiaobo said as he lowered his head, as if it was his own business. There'll be more opportunities. Lin Yi said as he patted the back of Kong Xiaobo's head. Let's go, I need to get back. He looked at the text on his phone as he got in the cab. It was indeed from Meng Yao, asking him when he was coming home. It seemed that the miss wasn't as cold as she looked on the surface. After spending some time with her, Lin Yi had gotten a good grasp of Meng Yao's personality. She was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. She had a bit of a temper, but she didn't really see herself as a follower or a servant. It was also the main reason why Lin Yi had accepted the job. Who knew how many people would fight for the chance to serve two misses? Lin Yi, naturally, knew that. He replied to Meng Yao, telling her that he'd be home soon. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he shook his head after a while. She still had the demeanor of a miss, after all. Lin Yi paid the taxi fare and returned to the villa. Faubert had already given him the keys, so Lin Yi didn't need Meng Yao to open the door for him. There was no one in the living room, evidently Meng Yao and Yushu had gone upstairs. General Weiwu was crouching lazily at the foot of the stairs, lowering his head to continue his nap when he saw Lin Yi. Lin Yi put his bag down and walked to the dining room. Li Fu was already there with food, evidently indicating that Yushu and Meng Yao had already eaten. Ah! Lin Yi couldn't help but chuckle as he looked at the dishes on the table. The two misses had taken out some of the dishes today, and even then, they didn't finish the food since they weren't big eaters. The food in the sealed box, on the other hand, hadn't been touched at all. It was probably for Lin Yi. He didn't know which miss it was, but his treatment had improved. Yushu. He wasn't too bad with her, but this girl. Lin Yi shook his head. It was already good enough that she didn't put the food that Meng Yao had eaten back into the box, pretending that it hadn't been touched at all. It had to be Meng Yao. The miss wasn't too bad to him, after all. Lin Yi thought as he scooped a bowl of rice and started wolfing it down. After dinner, Lin Yi cleaned the box and put the concert disc he bought in the afternoon on the coffee table before returning to his room. Lin Yi was about to give the old man a call to talk about the situation here. After closing the door, Lin Yi dialed old Lin's number. Under normal circumstances, Lin Yi wouldn't contact old Lin when he was on a mission, and he'd only let him know that he was safe when the mission was over. The phone rang a few times before old Lin's vulgar voice came through. Hello. Old man, it's E. Lin Yi said after a moment of silence. Oh. It's E. How's the mission going? Old Lin was evidently drinking, and Lin Yi could even hear the sound of him eating peanuts. Lin Yi didn't know what to say at the mention of the mission. I say, old man, what kind of mission did you give me? I'm just following the miss around like a follower every day. Are you trying to make me a high-class servant? You'll know what the mission is after some time. Old Lin said, evidently not wanting to waste his breath on this topic. After some time. How long? That was Lin Yi's main concern, and it was also a prelude to what he was going to say next. As long as you want. There's no time limit. It all depends on how fast you finish it. Old Lin said nonchalantly. As long as I want. Really? Lin Yi hesitated for a moment before speaking his mind. Old man, I kind of want to stay here. Oh. You want to stay there already? That's great. Old Lin was a little excited at Lin Yi's words. That means your mission is progressing well. It's a good start. What do you mean? Lin Yi was a little confused. What did this have to do with the progress of the mission? It's nothing. If you think it's good, then don't come back. I'll settle down there in a few years. You can build a foundation there first, have a few kids, and I'll be a grandfather. Old Lin seemed to approve of Lin Yi staying in Songshan, even more so than Lin Yi himself. Lin Yi thought he'd have to spend a lot of effort to convince old Lin to let him start a peaceful life. But he didn't even get to say anything, and old Lin was telling him to have kids already. What was the meaning of this? Was he planning to retire? I say, old man. What about the missions in the future? Lin Yi was a little suspicious. Was this the same stingy old man he knew? Giving him dangerous missions just to earn some money, missions. There's no more missions in the future, this is the last one. Old Lin said. Of course, if you want to exercise your muscles, you can take on a few missions, that's. Lin Yi wondered if old Lin had drunk too much. At first, Lin Yi was very hesitant on how to tell the old man about it. After all, he didn't belong to this kind of life before, but, the old man was already telling him to have kids before he even said anything. Lin Yi was a little sweaty, but one of his worries had been resolved just like that. He'd go hit on Tang Yun tomorrow. He didn't have to worry about anything anymore. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't touch the two misses of his family, Lin Yi wouldn't have gone so far. Is there anything else? Widow Wang from the village entrance is here, and I want to catch up with her. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up, bye. Old Lin didn't wait for Lin Yi to say anything before hanging up. Chapter 192. Chapter 192, Dilapidated Slums. Lin Yi drove Yushu's yellow beetle to Kong Xiaobo after making sure that Meng Yao and Yushu weren't going out. Faubert had already gotten the driver's license, and he'd given it to Lin Yi the day before. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of getting mugged by the police now. The two misses were watching the Blu-ray of Su Shihan's concert, the one Lin Yi had bought from the bookstore. They wouldn't be going out for a walk. Lin Yi gave Kong Xiaobo a call before leaving the house. The cheapest knockoff phone these days was only 100 or 200 kuai, and it was normal for high schoolers to have their own phones. Tang Yin was probably the only one who didn't have one. Xiaobo, where are you? Lin Yi asked. I'm at home, not leaving yet. Boss, ready to go. Kong Xiaobo had been looking forward to this day for a week now. Going to the school beauty's house for dinner was a rare honor, and so Kong Xiaobo had woken up early, waiting for Lin Yi's call. Where's your house? I'll come pick you up. Lin Yi said. You'll come pick me up? Kong Xiaobo blinked, not understanding what Lin Yi was getting at. My house is on Ningshi Street. Boss, which way is it? If it's not on the way, why don't we meet at the slums? Ningshi Street. Wait for me then. Lin Yi said before hanging up. Yushu's car had a GPS system installed, and Lin Yi keyed in Ningshi Street and started driving. Ningshi Street was actually on Lin Yi's way to school every day, and it was pretty easy to find. It didn't take long before Lin Yi parked the car near the bus stop. Lin Yi called Kong Xiaobo and told him that he was waiting for him at the station. Not long after, Lin Yi saw Kong Xiaobo, who was dressed very handsomely, running to the station platform. He looked around as he ran, obviously looking for Lin Yi. Xiaobo, here. Lin Yi opened the front passenger door and waved at Kong Xiaobo. Boss? Kong Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi and his car in surprise. He quickly ran over and asked, Is this your car? Hee. Lin Yi laughed. He didn't confirm or deny it. For this kind of thing, it would be difficult to explain too much. It was better not to explain at all. Sure enough, Kong Xiaobo thought that Lin Yi had acquiesced. He got in the car and said, Boss, I didn't expect your family to be so well off. I thought you came from a poor village. It's not too bad. Lin Yi told the truth. If the missions were as his old man said, only a few hundred or a few thousand, then his family would only be okay at best. If it were the market price, then his family would be a millionaire a long time ago, or even a billionaire. Of course, Lin Yi didn't want to be too calculative with his old man. If the old man was a miser, then so be it. He didn't lack food or drinks, and he'd just treat it as earning some money for his old man's retirement. But boss, why'd you buy a car like this? It looks like a girl's car. Look at the cushions, the interior. Kong Xiaobo said as he looked at the interior of the car. Ha! Lin Yi smiled. This car was Yushu's, of course it was feminine, eh? All of a sudden, Xiaobo's eyes stopped on an ornament on the rearview mirror. That's Yushu. Boss, no way. You have a crush on her. Kong Xiaobo's eyes went wide as he stared at the decoration in disbelief. It was a small photo frame, and it was Yushu in it. Eh? Lin Yi didn't notice it before, but now that Kong Xiaobo mentioned it, he looked at the decoration. He was speechless. This decoration. It's the owner's, boss, I know. Kong Xiaobo smiled as if he knew everything. Boss, I'm a man too, I know. It's fine, I won't tell Tang Yun. Lin Yi took it off and tossed it into the drawer on the passenger seat. Yeah, hurry up and hide it. It'll be bad if Tang Yun sees it. Xiaobo nodded in agreement. Lin Yi sweated and almost crashed the car. Slums referred to the single-story houses in the built-up areas of the city. The houses were old, the quality was poor, the average floor space was small, the infrastructure wasn't complete, the transportation was inconvenient, the security and fire hazard were high, and the environment was dirty, messy, and bad. Many developing cities had such shantytowns. Of course, not all of the shantytowns were bungalows. There were also some buildings, but these buildings were three-story red brick houses. They were not much better than bungalows. There were no gas pipes, no network engineering, and so on. Some didn't even have a kitchen vent. Lin Yi's old house was mostly this kind of dilapidated house, so he didn't think much of it. Kong Xiaobo, on the other hand, had only passed by the slums before and had never seen it. He was completely shocked when he saw it today. He didn't expect Tang Yun to live in such a terrible environment. Dirty coal piles, firewood piles, smelly garbage, and smelly drains. It was a horrible environment. And in this horrible environment, Tang Yun, the commoner beauty of first middle school, was born. Boss, this environment. Kong Xiaobo couldn't help but close the window. He couldn't stand the smell. The place I used to live was pretty much like this. Lin Yi said with a smile, not thinking much of it at all. There was one more thing he didn't say, it was the battlefield, much worse than this. He could hide in the gutters and swamps for days. Lin Yi found grass alley and turned the car in. But after turning in, it was difficult to drive in. Every door was full of junk. Lin Yi had no choice but to park the car at the entrance of the alleyway. The residents in the alleyway looked at the brightly colored, obviously expensive car, a little surprised. Under normal circumstances, there were very few cars coming to Shantytown. In addition to taxis, there were almost no residents here who could afford a car. Since they could afford a car, they did not live here. They had already bought a house in a better place. Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo got out of the car, locked the car, and followed the number on the door to Tang Yun's house. The third door should be here. Lin Yi looked at the dilapidated door and sighed slightly. He guessed that Tang Yun's family's condition was poor, but in this slums, Tang Yun's family's condition should be below average. Tang Yun's yard was obviously a lot more dilapidated than the others, and it probably hadn't been repaired in a long time. He didn't know if it was because of the lack of time, or because of the lack of money, but Lin Yi felt a little sad looking at it. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.